Good evening, sim racing fans across the globe, and for the second time in 2015, Real Sim Racing comes to the concrete coliseum that is Bristol Motor Speedway with heavy hearts. This arguably not the way we wanted to open tonight's broadcast, but all of us here at LSRTV and Real Sim Racing want to welcome you to the broadcast of tonight's run at Bristol and also pay our respects to the family of Justin Wilson. IndyCar reporting just a few minutes ago in a press conference that Wilson has passed away due to the head injuries sustained in his crash yesterday during the Pocono ABC Supply 500. So all of us at LSRTV and Real Sim Racing add our condolences to those of the IndyCar community and add them to the thoughts and prayers going out to Justin's family right now. Evan, when we were back here in April, we had heavy hearts because of the battle that Steve Burns was fighting with cancer, and tonight, unfortunately, we come into Bristol again with heavy hearts for the second time in less than 5 years. It seems like the open wheel community dealt a heavy hand of cards, and just not what you want to see, though at least as we've seen in the past, the motorsports community gathering together again.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we talk about a lot with the sim racing. A lot of drivers, you'll hear them say, one of the positives is when you crash a race car and you hit a reset button. It's a very big differential, between sim racing and obviously real world racing. And the prayer and such before race is something that everybody takes for granted, the safety in racing. And it's been a little bit of a rough year. And, you never want to have to, start off a broadcast getting ready to, go racing at Thunder Valley and then 10 minutes before get some bad news. It's tough. But like you mentioned, we'll see how the racing community comes together. But it has been a tough year.
And we will add and we'll put out over the LSR TV social channels over the next couple of days that there is a trust fund that's been put into place for Justin's two daughters. We'll add that information to those in the coming days that the sim racing community can have that information as well. But like Evan said, we do have a race to get to tonight as well. So with that, we want to welcome all our viewers into the Inside Sim Racing broadcast tower and officially introduce what's going on here tonight. I'm Jacob Seelman for LSR TV. The voice you heard a moment ago was Evan Pasoko, and Brian Macklin also joining us to complete the three-man team in the broadcast tower tonight. The high banks of Thunder Valley, Brian, certainly going to play a pivotal factor in who makes the chase and who doesn't here, as we are now just 3 races to go until the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series chase for the championship begins. And one driver coming into tonight put down a lot of laps in practice getting ready for tonight's event here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. 225 laps, the distance of race time. Greg Evans put down 232 laps of practice. So he's already run the race, and we've not even started the race yet tonight.
Yeah, he was down on the track a lot tonight, putting down a lot of laps. I actually had a chance to catch up with him and talk to him, and he said that this is one of the most challenging tracks that they go to, and he wanted to be ready. He didn't want to have any surprises tonight when he got out there and started racing, so he wanted to turn as many laps as possible. I don't think more than what we're going to see them race tonight was what he intended on doing, but I don't think it's going to hurt anything. I mean, the more laps you can turn around this track, the better. This is a very tough track to understand, and it's a very rhythmatic track. If you don't get into a rhythm and hit your marks lap after lap, you're not going to be up there at the front battling for the win. The fastest driver is not always going to go to victory lane here, certainly, because so much happens in such a short period of time. There's so many cars out there. We have over, it looks like 36, 37 cars tonight, so much can happen on this track. You're going to see the leaders catching the lap cars within about 15 laps after a restart or after the initial start, and you're going to see them start putting cars a lap down right away. So it's going to be really important to get the track position and really important to stay out of trouble all night.
Single car qualifying, I believe, going on right now. 10 minutes total to put down 2 laps. And Evan, we come off now 3 consecutive first-time winners and 4 of the last 5 in the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series. It's really been quite remarkable, to say the least, the run we've been on in this series. And Bristol is a track where, depending on how things shake out, we could well see another first-time winner tonight, because it's just chaos.
Right, this track is very difficult, which makes it in the sense that you think it would be veteran drivers up front, and we do see a lot of veteran names up at the front of the field, but because also the fact that it is Bristol, it's an absolutely crazy racetrack. Anything can happen, and this is a pretty long race too. Talking about how long these guys have gone in practice, it's a 225 lap long race. You're going to have guys getting lapped. There's going to be cautions in the middle of pit cycles or while guys are stuck laps down. Nothing really is guaranteed, and we might not even get a good picture of where this race is going to shake out to maybe the 3/4 distance mark. And we all know if you get one yellow late, that can completely change the way of this one. But what all of these wins have been doing, and if you include tonight 3 more chances for somebody inside the top 30 in points to get a win and to get into the chase, who says we can't get a 4th one?
That's absolutely right. And I want to give a shout-out to a guy who's returning to the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series tonight in car 01, Evan. We know he's good. He was a 4-time winner last year, looking for his first win of the season, ran the first 11 races of the year, and now making a comeback to our Full Throttle Cup Series is Adam Benefiel. And anytime you put that pin on the table, there's a chance that you could shuffle the haystack just a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are happy that Benefiel has not been running all season, because we saw how strong he can be, and you know, to come back at Bristol, a very difficult track to do so, and you can tell so because Benefiel, a name that you expect to be up there, he's working around just outside the top 10 or so right now. So we obviously know he has the speed, but for being 15th right now, I can guarantee you that he's not satisfied with that spot, and he'll continue to work, especially with the speed of what-off start. Hasn't raced, as you said, outside of the first 11 races on the year. He wants to perform, and we all know that the standards that Adam holds himself to, he's not going to settle for a 15th. So when he's mid-pack, that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, and coming down to about 1 minute and 45 seconds left in qualifying. So we'll bring you the starting grid in just a moment. And right now, we are going to get ready to kick off tonight's opening ceremonies. So we're going to go trackside for tonight's national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Bringing you back topside, and thanks to Jaden Berkey for providing tonight's national anthem here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Getting set for the Ford Performance Night Race here at Bristol, qualifying now officially in the books. So we're going to take you down, Evan, for the Ford Performance starting grid now as we line up behind that Mustang pace car. And how about a second career pole for the driver of the number 96, Mitch Rolo, after a pole at Watkins Glen, puts himself on point tonight here in Bristol alongside the guy who, well, has done everything in all 3 series this season. Jeff Ward in the 89 starts second.
And don't blink now, but a lot of big names back on row number 2 as well. The third starting spot going to go to the 23 of Greg Evans. Outside passenger door along him, the number 94, Eric Brundies will be in 4th.
Starting in the 5th position, driving the number 9, Speed 77 Chevrolet SS, that's Anthony DeBarro, and to his outside is the number 11, that is Jonathan Cadell, starting 6th.
Behind Cadell, starting 7th, one of the all-star rookies this season, Daniel Eberhardt, rolling from the inside of row number 4. Nick Cohan, one of the Steel Horse drivers in the 53, rolls 8th tonight.
Thomas George going to roll the Snap-on Chevy off at 9th position alongside Corbin Hemstreet. That 69 machine for RCO Boomtown going to round out your top 10.
David Comstock, already locked into the chase, is starting 11th, looking for another win in one of these last 3 races, and to his outside is David Washington, number 98. He's starting 12th.
Washington was the driver who shocked the world and picked up his first career RSR Full Throttle Cup Series win in just his 3rd start a week ago. Shyler Brown in the 51 rolls 13th, and the outside of row number 7, that 5 machine of Dan Murray.
Going to be Race Chaser Online on board that 01 Chevrolet SS. Adam Benefield will roll from 15th on the grid. Alongside him going to be the 03 Thomas Lattimore in 16th.
Jimmy North is starting 17th in the number 84 Lowe's Chevrolet, and to his outside, Dwayne Vincent, still looking for his first win on the season. He's going to have a long ways to go if he's going to get there tonight. He's starting 18th.
Steve Gottschalk, the Nerfinator, from 19th, and the 2013 champ, Chad Cole, 20th.
Brennan Mercer going to start this one in 21st. 22nd is Scott Simley. It's Paul Fugate in 23rd. 24th for Joe Dinsmore, and Doug Roth rounds out your top 25.
Starting in the 26th position is J.R. Johnson. Scott Stenzel is 27th. Those are the last 2 drivers that actually took a time. The rest of your starting grid chose to take a provisional for this race tonight.
Yeah, Dylan Jones, Nick Silver, Matt LaCrosse, Sean Casto, Christopher Hurlow, Rich Jett, Nathan Little, David Kamara, Douglas Wyatt, Ryan Vaughn make a 37-car grid here tonight at Thunder Valley, and the field going to be in the hands of Mitch Rolo in the number 96 machine, who is getting ready to lead this field to green. Going to be a whole lot of fun to watch here tonight. And Evan, I'm glad that LSRTV getting ready to bring this one to the green flag. It's in the air, and or about to be in the air, and we're about to be underway.
Yeah, that 96 is going to be starting on the inside of the front row. Mitch Rolo control car in this one. Let's see if the top's going to be the place to be as we expect as the pace car dives down.
We're glad you're with us again. False start, if you will. And now we're ready to go. The American Ethanol green flag goes in the air. Mitch Rolo on the gas, and we are underway for the Ford Performance Night Race at Bristol. Rolo takes the early lead, and he actually gets away really, really cleanly here on the opening lap. He's going to have a pretty solid gap behind the battle for second.
If the top 3 get single filed out, now you see that 9 machine. First car down on the bottom of the racetrack, Anthony DeBarro trying to get 4th. Hello, not quite clear, but he'll come up anyways in front of the 94 of Eric Brundies. Brundies got to check things up, but he'll fall back. Now a big power move at a 4, going to bring it back alongside. But that 9 machine for working on the bottom, doing pretty good. He's even thinking about trying to get up on Greg Evans in that John Deere 23. Not going to happen that time, and he better make something work because there was a big line on the outside of the racetrack.
Yeah, there is. I think the 9 of DeBarro actually got a shot. Don't know that Eric Brundies really appreciated that little dive bomb slide job move, and now DeBarro back a little bit on that inside lane. The high line is the place to be here at Bristol. Brundies making the move to the outside, going to take that position away from DeBarro. Daniel Eberhardt in the 90 trying to make some moves, and Brian, we're going to see this. It's the story all night long. This one of the few tracks where you really don't want to be trapped on the bottom. Usually that inside lane the place to be on this sim. Not so here in Thunder Valley.
Yeah, ever since they repaved this track in real life, you have to run the outside line here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. If you get pinned down on that bottom, you're going to see, like we see with Anthony DeBarro right now, you're going to go backwards. He has been down on the bottom since the start of this race, and he has been constantly dropping back. He made a couple of good moves on the bottom at the beginning, and now he's fallen back just outside of the top 5. He's still battling to the inside right now of Daniel Eberhardt in the number 90 machine, but if he's not careful, there's a line of cars back there that could get him. He's got a chance to get up here on the outside line if he falls in line behind Daniel, and it looks like he's going to do that in front of Thomas George as they come off turn 2.
Continuing to watch some battles around this racetrack. Front few have kind of worked it out single file, and Mitch Rolo has worked out a pretty impressive lead here early in the going. I'm even a little shocked by this, Evan, as the caution flag comes out, going to erase the hard work, but it was 1.5 seconds for Rolo just before this Service Master Clean yellow flag.
And the car involved in that yellow down on the apron just in front of your race leaders. It's the BeAlion.org number 45 of Paul Fugate in trouble early. Talking about how the outside of the racetrack, the place to be. When you get sideways, looks like he came down. Maybe the 37 of J.R. Johnson might have slid up the hill the slightest bit. Nonetheless, they meet at a quarter number 4, and down into the inside wall goes the 45. Nobody else collected. Leaders are able to scoot on by, but an early caution flag got to slow things down. And as you were talking about, that gap that the 96 had, now gone.
At the replay right here, and quite simply one of those early race incidents that we talk about, Brian, all the time, where there's not a lot of space to avoid things here at Bristol, and there's not a lot of space to save your car if you get sideways either.
Yeah, when things happen here, they happen in a hurry. There's walls on both sides of this track, so when you lose it coming off the corner, or in this case you have contact with another driver off the corner, you don't have a lot of places to try to save your car. If you go to a track like Michigan, where we were at last week, you have a lot of open racetrack where you can try to save it if you get sideways. Not the case here. When you get sideways, you have about maybe 60 feet between each wall. You don't have a lot of room to work with, and unfortunately for Paul there, that was a big hit to the inside wall, and it looks like his night's probably going to be over.
I would tend to agree with you on that one, Brian. As much as I hate to say that, Paul Fugate, one of the drivers who came in during segment 3 and has really been trying to find his footing, Evan, and he's not done a bad job, but unfortunately a night like this really not going to help the cause, because it puts him out before you can really put in a lot of solid laps here at Bristol.
Yeah, that driver's been doing good, top 25, top 20 cars, but the issue that they've been having, and you can relate this if you want to the one of Thomas J. George earlier in the season, is the fact that the team just can't catch a break. And unfortunately for Paul, most of their issues are coming really early in this race. That's a couple of incidents now that come before lap 25 or even lap 50. So getting off the ground in these races seems to be the biggest struggle for the 45, and at Bristol does not look like tonight's going to be a redemption evening. That car on pit lane, and looks like heavy black smoke only continues to billow out of that, so we can pretty much call him done, I would say.
Working under caution, want to give a chance to look through the early leaderboard, as we now have 13 laps going to go up on the board. And Mitch Rolo, your early race leader, top 5, actually running pretty well, exactly like they started, save for 5th place. Jeff Ward running 2nd where he started. Greg Evans, 3rd place qualifier, runs 3rd. Eric Brundy's the defending champ in 4th, and Daniel Eberhardt, the guy making passes early, started 7th and has moved up to the 5th position in car number 90. So a little bit of shuffling, but as of right now, the top 9 qualifiers run in the top 9 positions. So we are seeing a lot of guys be able to hold track position early, though Brian Macklin, as you just noted to me with a nudge and a note, that Dylan Jones, who finished 2nd at our most recent event at Michigan International Speedway, the rookie, 28th to 19th in the early going. And how about the guy behind him, Christopher Hurlow, 32nd, up 12 to 20th.
Yeah, both those guys have been on a move here in the early goings. We actually are getting ready to go back green. The lights are off on the Irishing Ford First Mustang. But yes, these guys are making early moves here, and they're looking to get to the front as quickly as possible.
Already getting ready for our first American Ethanol green flag restart of the night, and this restart brought to you by American Ethanol, American-made, American-grown, powering NASCAR. Mitch Rolo again on the bottom of the racetrack, away, headed for turn number 1. He leads the field here at lap number 15, and Greg Evans, how about the move to the inside of his Steel Horse Racing teammate, the John Deere entry, moves to P2.
And things aren't going to be that easy for 3rd. The 90 car sideways down the back straightaway. Spinning goes Daniel Eberhardt. Backwards down in quarter number 3. Looks like everybody's going to get around. Now the 29 of Brennan Mercer spinning out of 4. Chaos as everybody tries to get through.
And yet there's no caution right now as we cross the stripe to complete lap number 16. So chaos on the restart, and yet we are still green flag Eberhardt coming up, and Corbin Hemstreet looks like he got a piece of that as well and is going to fall a lap down early.
Brennan got sideways trying to get through that. Then also the number 95 machine got sideways trying to get through that. So Joe Dinsmore got sideways. The 37 hit him. The 69 got turned around in 4. And we had cars backwards, 2-3 of them, because they were down on that darker asphalt as opposed up on a concrete surface of the racing track. Nope. caution, which I'm sure Eberhardt not all that happy about, because if he got a caution there, he would have spun out, kept going, and maybe would have fallen outside the top 25. No worse. Now he's off at a lead lap, and that's going to be very difficult to get back as these guys now spread out, really stringing the field out after everybody checked up. Your leader is going to be in thick lap traffic very shortly.
Yeah, Mitch Rolo put his teammate a lap down very, very quickly. He's got about an 0.8 of a second gap right now over Greg Evans, as we're going to be completing lap number 20 this time by. So Rolo has led all of them so far. He's got about a 7-car length lead. Greg Evans second, Jeff Ward third, Brundys and Anthony DeBarro the rest of the top 5. To those top 5 running. Oh, Eric Brundys and DeBarro get together. DeBarro almost put Brundys in the fence off 4.
And they'll stay side by side. The 53 wants to go through them. That's the 53, Nicholas Cohan, trying to find a way around it, and could have shot it 3 wide, thought better of it. Now he hesitates. 69 going to go to the bottom on him. So if you're not passing somebody is trying to pass you. But in front of him, that 1 and the 9 still stay side by side, and more contact that time in 1. The 1 not giving 9 a whole lot of room in 3.
We're very used to that. These two have raced very hard over the past couple of races, and now we're seeing a little bit of tempers flare early here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. DeBarro to the outside. Thomas George trying to pinch him up there. Almost got him into the fence, and Nick Cohan, an interested bystander back there in that 53 car. DeBarro almost tags the safer barrier again off 4, Brian, and that 9 car just looks out of control right now.
Yeah, he is really being aggressive right now. It's a very tough track to pass on, and for Thomas George, he was really fighting on the inside line there, trying to make something happen. Unfortunately, for the time being, he was not able to make that happen. He's going to have to fall in line in the 6th position. You're on board with Thomas George right now. You see him going through 1 and 2 right now, following behind Anthony DeBarro. And as you get later on into this race, I want you to understand the patients are going to get even more thin. They're going to start using that bumper. They're going to start using their doors, and they're going to start using each other up. We're only on lap 27 of a 225 lap race. When they get down to the last 20-25 laps, you're going to see a lot of beating and banging, and that's when it's really going to get exciting.
You're absolutely right about that. We're almost 30 laps in, and we're already talking about tempers flaring. It may well be a very long night here in Thunder Valley. It may be a long night for the field as well, because Greg Evans 1 second in arrears to race leader Mitch Rolo, who looks like he is absolutely on a rail tonight. Rolo, your pace setter, as we're coming up on lap number 30 of 225 in the Ford Performance Night Race. Still a long way to go, but Mitch Rolo, the man out front, ahead of Greg Evans, Jeff Ward, and the rest of the chasing field. From Thunder Valley and Bristol Motor Speedway, this is LSRTV, the voice of sim racing. We'll be right back.
Once its sights are set, nothing can stop the ferocious lion from capturing its prey. Relying on keen senses, lions search patiently before striking with alarming speed. Wait for it. Gotcha, Mr. Piece of Rubbish. He is truly the master of his environment. Do good, be a lion.
Welcome back to LSRTV. Under caution at lap number 33 for an incident that started in lap traffic and ultimately collected race leader Mitch Rolo. It started in lap traffic, Evan, and ultimately ended when Rolo got tagged by his teammate falling back through the field. There wasn't a caution at first. There certainly ended with a caution in about turn 3.
David Kamara got a little bit of hot down into the corner, and that's the 48 machine. He comes down, trying to regain control, clips Doug Roth, that he finds himself sideways in the middle of the racetrack. It was close before all of this, still with Mitch Rolo trying to find a way through, and then the 48 comes down, gets into the 96. The 96 all but goes all the way around, and no caution, so they're 4-5 wide trying to get back up the speed. The 96 is slow, and then he gets hit from the 9 from behind. That's his teammate, gets turned around in the middle of the racetrack, tries to spin it around, keep going, hits 2 other cars. So it was, we always talk about how lap traffic's going to be a problem, and at any other racetrack, we'll say if you're leading, you're in clean air, that's good. That's never a case here at Bristol, but that was just ugly.
Brian, lap traffic is the story of the night because it's so tight here, and that was just chaos. Mitch Rolo had nowhere to go. He was trying to stick the car in the middle of the racetrack, and there just wasn't a lane there, I felt like.
Yeah, and the thing about it was the lap cars were not doing anything wrong. They were racing for position, and they were racing to try to stay on the lead lap. They were not doing anything wrong. It was unfortunate for Mitch, and it was unfortunate for the other guys that were involved, but the lap cars were doing what they're out there to do. They're out there to race just the same that the leaders are. So as much as you want to be frustrated with what happened there with the lap cars, you can't really blame them. They were just out there racing hard, side by side, trying to get as much as they can where they're at. And it was a really unfortunate set of circumstances for those guys, but you're going to have to deal with it all night long. That just because this happened, it doesn't mean those guys are going to go out there and race any differently. When they're side by side, they're going to continue battling, and as the lead car, it's your job to try to find a way around them. So unfortunately, it didn't work out that way, but I'm sure that everybody will understand that and move on from this.
I'm looking down the leaderboard right now. You've got Corbin Hemstreet a lap down, Rich Jett, Sean Casto, Scott Simley, among others. Rolo right now 3 laps down. I know there's some good damage, Evan, to that car. I didn't get a really good look at it. Did Adam Benefield get a piece of that in the 01?
That 01 machine right now, and he is pretty torn up. The front end of that race car scraped up, the back end up as well. He unfortunately found himself right in the middle of where all that was happening. He was behind the group of race cars where the contact started, and he was in 9th, so, it started up front, but everything just jammed up. He got into it with the 14 and the 1, so the 90 also involved. That's a good amount of your top 10 runners, including as well at-time race leader that all got torn up in that one, and now Greg Evans finds himself to the top spot, and only 5 drivers that started inside the top 10 sit there, as opposed to it being entirely like we saw at the start before.
I want to give a shout out to the 28 car who did a masterful job of getting through that incident, and we'll see if we can't get a shot of him here. Ryan Vaughn, who almost wasn't going to be in this race tonight, ended up hopping behind the wheel last second, and now finds himself from 37th, last on the grid, right 8th right now. Brian, that's how quickly the pendulum can swing in your favor here at Bristol.
Yeah, he was really impressive getting through all that and managing to get all the way up from the 37th position up inside the top 10. And now as we're getting ready to go back green, he's got an opportunity to continue climbing. He's going to restart on the outside line here for this restart, which is a really big advantage for those guys because they don't have to fight to get up there. That's where you need to be, and he's already there, so he can just try to march his way forward more.
He will be trying to do that, but it's going to be a trio of Steel Horse Racing drivers leading the field back to the American Ethanol green flag. Greg Evans, Jeff Ward, and Nick Cohan in the top 3 spots as green is in the air. We are back underway in the John Deere entry, right to the top of the board by 5 car lengths, working through 1 and 2, and Eric Brundy's almost tagged the wall.
And it's always P3 on back where all the fun is. Up front, it hasn't been much of a challenge off the restarts quite yet. Looks like top 6, 7, almost through the top 10, get single filed out. First fight down in the corner, the number 91 on the bottom of the racetrack. Steve Gottschalk not going to be able to get up in line. It's the 8 of Chad Cole who goes on the charge again. Once you get stuck down low, there's a whole line of cars coming on the outside. 8 car going to try to get clear this time, and once he's through, David Washington right there, Dylan Jones. How about 3 wide with the 84, 41, and the 21? In the middle of all of that is Jimmy North.
Yeah, Jimmy North is in a place where he probably doesn't want to be right now. You don't want to be in the middle of a sandwich here at Bristol, Brian, because then you literally have nowhere to go when something breaks out, and if either of the guys on the inside or outside of you make a mistake, you're in the middle of a mess.
Yeah, and he continues to keep his himself right there in that position, though. He's still down on the bottom trying to make this work as he's right behind all these guys working too wide in front of him, trying to get clear of the number 41 machine of Nathan Little on the outside line. So far has not been able to do it. He's got an opportunity to jump in line. It doesn't look like he's going to take it right away. Yes, no. The 21 on Matt LaCroix actually is going to squeeze up there on his outside and take that away from him. These guys are racing hard, and we're only 45 laps in.
Yeah, don't they know we have 180 laps to go in this race yet? I mean, they're racing like it's the last lap, Evan.
I'll tell you what, that battle with Jimmy North is not simmering down at all. You would think it's into the final 25 of this one. The 84 KB design Chevy got real sideways a couple of laps ago, and you can see he is just falling back on the inside of the racetrack. Started this race in 17th, got up near the top 10 after that most recent caution, but down low, not having any luck. You see a beaten and battered 14 to David Comstock trying to get around, and obviously the Monster Energy Chevy not handling like it was because 14 used the wall there as a bumper to try to help him through the corner, still trying to get around the 84, but a lot of guys working with damaged race cars, they can take a hit and keep on ticking, but to an extent you don't want to keep hitting the fence all night.
No, you don't. Mitch Rolo just took his number 96 machine to the garage area. His night is over, and, well, his night may be over. We'll try and get him up here in a couple of minutes to see exactly what he's got to say about it. But for now, the battle up front is between a trio of teammates in Steel Horse Racing. And, you know, Brian, we were talking about how this race has the potential to shake up the chase grid, perhaps. Look at the guy in third, in Nick Cohan, who is right on the outside looking in of the chase battle right now. If he gets a win tonight, that opens up a whole new Pandora's box of championship scenarios that could make life really, really interesting.
Yeah, it certainly could, and he's doing a really good job right now in that third position, and he's got two teammates in front of him. And who's to say they don't know that he needs that win to get into the chase? They may try to help him out here with 3 races to go. This might be his best opportunity to get a win, so we might see a little bit of teammates helping teammates to try to get him in the chase to add to the Steel Horse entries in the chase for this year. So certainly could see that. You've also got Jonathan Cadell up there in the 5th place. He's still looking for a win this year. Granted, I do believe he's in on points right now for the chase, but he would certainly love to get a win just to verify that he's going to be in there without having any concerns. So a lot of guys that have an opportunity to take advantage of the humongous wreck that we already saw here early on in this race, looking to capitalize, and they certainly could here. There's still a lot of laps left there. They're going to have to keep the cars clean if they want to do it.
Yeah, a third guy who really needs a win and needs a win to get in the chase is Christopher Hurlow in the 87, was a big beneficiary of that crash, running 8th right now. And Chris is a quiet driver. He's not going to show his cards too early. And as I say that, he sits in 8th, and we have a caution on the racetrack here, Evan, at lap 56. Looks like Jimmy North, Scott Stenzel among the drivers involved in this one. Sean Casto in the barrels on the front stretch.
Yeah, a lot of smoke, a lot of cars involved in this one. I mean, we're talking about how Jimmy North was stuck on the bottom of the racetrack and going backwards. Well, he went up to the top side, and things weren't much better. The incident started just like what happened when we saw the incident with the lap traffic. The 84, a little bit hot into the corner, and you have Dwayne Vincent, who is now locked into the chase, the top driver of the points, but yet to get a win on the year. Back here in 25th position, you'll see the replay right now. 84 gets turned, and the 52 gets turned, and everybody's checking up, trying to get through it, and the racetrack gets blocked, and you can throw about 3, 4, 5 cars into that one.
Leaders are on pit road, Evan. It's in front of you.
Greg Evans going to lead us down pit road. He's in that number 3 pit stall. That's going to be the key thing to look at here. 80 dotted Jeff Ward started this race in second to be 1 stall in front. A little bit of a slow entry, though. 4 tires going up on Greg Evans' machine, the John Deere Chevrolet. Fully serviced and off, and no challenge for the first.
Yeah, that was a pretty easy battle to call off pit road. I believe Greg Evans won it quite handily here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. And as we get ready to watch a restart in a moment, Evan, going back to the crash on lap 33, it's already eliminated a bunch of very strong contenders in this race. Definitely an unfortunate incident, and one that has shaped the complexion of this race. And I believe now we're going to get a chance to talk trackside with the guy who was leading this race and then got caught up. Evan, let's see if we can't catch up with Mitch Rolo.
Absolutely. Mitch Rolo, Evan Pizzoco, Jacob Seelman, and Brian Macklin in the booth. You get a copy?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Well, we all know Bristol tight quarters, and we all know that lap traffic going to be a part of this race, but that machine looking real strong up front, and before the caution flag prior to your incident, you had quite a big gap. Everybody got spread out after a couple of checkups, and they were about 2 wide, 3-4 rows deep in front of you. What happened from behind the wheel?
Yeah, I mean, the TAM lap cars just wouldn't get out of the way. I mean, they're sitting there 2-3 wide in front of me, and finally Camaro goes sailing in there and hits the wall, comes down the track instead of holding up on the wall, and just takes out, 6-7 cars or however many took out and later. So I mean, it's kind of a dumb way to get out of the race. But I just want to say my thoughts and prayers are to Justin Wilson's family right now. I imagine they're going through a very, very tough time right now, and it's just it's a very sad day for the racing world. And he's gone too soon.
Well, Mitch, thanks for talking with us. Tough break for you guys. We know your team has been running, so strong best of luck. We'll see you next week.
10-4. Thanks, Ed.
Jacob evidently obviously not happy with that one. The big story these last couple of weeks, not only with all the first-time winners, is that a lot of them have come out of that RCO Boomtown Sim Camp, not their night tonight.
No, and now the lead is in the hands of the defending series champion, Eric Brundys, because he uses a little bit of pit strategy to move to the top spot. Evan, we're getting ready for an American Ethanol restart, and the White Castle Ford is going to lead the field to green.
And he's again going to be on the inside of the racetrack, but we have not seen your race leader have any challenges getting up to the top side. Pace car down of the way. Eric Brundys in control right away on the accelerator. Green flag flies it again. He goes to the outside of the racetrack. Top 3 play nice. Looks like everybody inside the top 5 mind their P's and Q's. First fight you find those with Matt Lacrosse.
How about last week's race winner, David Washington, in the 98 car, hounding your defending series champion for the point. Mathematically, he cannot get to the top 30 to become chase eligible, but that is not stopping him from putting a really big amount of pressure on your champion, Eric Brundys. Brundys' teammate, Nathan Little, rides in the 3rd position right now, so actually top 3 are all stroker aces as they run on the racetrack. The first non-ace is in 4th with Chad Cole. We got another caution on the racetrack here at lap 64.
And the 9
Whoa!
Anthony Navarro involved in this one. That 29 of Brendan Mercer turned
David
around
Comstock.
as well. And I don't know what happened there, but the 29 machine way down on the apron, and that's Brendan Mercer in the middle of the corner. Fighting looks like behind a battle. The 25 gets sideways first after Navarro gets into the left rear of the 25. Brendan goes low to get away from it, thinking they're wrecking, and he ends up coming back up off of the apron, trying to get out of the way, hits the 9 car, and collects the 9 to 25 it again, and then also a couple of other drivers trying to get through. Comstock has to come to a stop to avoid this one, avoid any more major damage on that Monster Energy Chevy.
Under caution at Bristol Motor Speedway, we're going to do some business and be back with more right after this. You're watching the Ford Performance Night Race for the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, and from Bristol Motor Speedway, this is LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
in the outside, contact made, 56 slides it at a 4, who's going to be at the stripe, dead even, give it to Ryan Truex. Truex is your winner over Tandy.
Back live at a virtual Bristol Motor Speedway, getting set for another restart, and Eric Brundys is going to be control of the field. It's going to be the White Castle Ford Fusion leading us back to the green flag over top of David Washington, trying to put the number 98 Toyota yet again back into victory lane in just over a couple of single digits. Start's not eligible for the chase, but he can continue to play spoiler just 2 races after tonight till the cutoff. Pace car down to the way, green flag flies, we're back underway. Brundys good start, and this time Brian something we haven't seen. How about a battle for a second to 41 Little? Not a lot of room. He'll go for the race lead at a 2.
Battle for the lead as they go down the back straightaway. Nathan Little got a great run on the bottom. Now he looks to try to take the lead as they go through 3 and 4. David Washington's around in turn 4. He got contact from behind, and the caution is out once again here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. It looks like everybody's going to straighten out, but for the time being, what that actually was, David Washington got up in the wall, and then Nicholas Cohan had nowhere to go and got into the left rear quarter panel. And actually, it looks like Nicholas Cohan may have made contact with him prior to David getting in the wall. Replay is up on your screen now. You'll see the contact between the 98 of David Washington and the 53 of Nicholas Cohan back under caution here at the Bristol Motor Speedway.
Not the first time tonight we have seen somebody get down into a corner and get down a little bit hot. Unfortunately, that 98 gets turned around on the nose of the 53. They went 4 wide, and that was fixing to be another 4 or 5 car incident. Somehow, though, the 98 and the 53 kind of stick on each other's nose, and we stay relatively keen for the most part, but the caution did quickly come out once that number 98 machine got turned absolutely, 180 degrees sideways in the middle of the racetrack. So caution flag is out, and that battle for the lead. Good timing, though, for Nathan Little in that 41. Wasn't quite clear on your race leader, and again, tonight, the battle for the race lead has essentially been non-existent, and can't guarantee the 41 was going to be able to get around Brundys because Brundys had the outside lane, Brian, but 41 had a nose at the start-finish line. That's where the scoring loop goes to at the point of caution, and now Nathan Little's going to be in control of this field and should be able to get to the top side and maybe try to lead this race. He started back in 34th position, has passed 33 cars to lead this race now at lap 73.
Yeah, and he's not the only driver that has done an excellent job working their way up through the field. Another driver up in the 4th position, he started 20th. That's Chad Cole up in the top 4 now. Also, Dylan Jones, we talked about him a little while ago. He started 28th. He's worked all the way up into the 6th position. So this is certainly looking to be a race of comers and goers. We're seeing a lot of these guys that started in the back that have made their way to the front. The thing that I'm really interested to see when we go back green, though, is Greg Evans. He's on fresh tires. He's one of those guys that came down and pitted a couple cautions ago. So it's going to be very exciting to see how those tires affect him and if they help him get around these 2 in front of him when we go back green. We've seen him work his way back up. He restarted in the 8th position 2 cautions ago. Unfortunately, he has not gotten back to the lead yet, but he's all the way up to 3rd and could certainly get up there and challenge for the lead. We might actually see the bottom lane work for him since he's got those fresh tires. He might be able to hug that inside line and actually make some moves down there. So I'm really excited and interested to see how this is going to play out for him when we go back green.
Right now, on paddle shifting.
A lot of drivers going up, a lot of drivers going down right now in the running order. Sit with 24 drivers on the lead lap of the 37 that started this race. David Washington at the moment is the last driver on the lead lap in 24th. The number 98 machine coming down pit road, trying to get some service done on that machine, but going to be quickly approaching the lap 100 mark, and normally it's going to be talking about 25-50 to go. Still a long road to hoe, though, in this one. Still in excess of about 150 miles to go. 150 laps right on the dot, I do believe, for this next drop of the green flag. And the lights do go off on top of the pace car. So race leader has had an undeniable stranglehold on the field all night long. One time it hasn't happened, we saw a change for the lead. Nathan Little this time going to be in control. The Friends of Cole Chevrolet down on the inside. 94 going to be up on the outside. Greg Evans, Chad Cole. Keep it on the John Deere Chevy and the DeWalt Chevy. Back on road 2. Pace car down and absolutely no hesitation. 94 knew it was coming. Green flag flies. We're back underway, and already it is Nathan Little to the outside of the racetrack. He gets going. Look at that 23 throwing it in there. Greg Evans tries to challenge the great start from the 94. Not going to be enough. Top 5 single file.
Single file as they come off turn 4. Greg Evans looking for some grip, looking for some momentum down there. Meanwhile, back a little bit further back in the 5 machine, Dan Murray is trying to make that inside line work. He's on the inside of Chad Cole, trying to challenge for the 6th position. In front of him now, Dylan Jones is challenging Jonathan Caddell as they come off turn 4. Almost they make contact as they come off turn 4 there. Now he goes back to the bottom of the track, trying to hug that inside line all the way around the corner, not able to make the pass yet. He's going to have to work a little bit harder down there if he wants to make it happen. He is still trying to challenge it. Oh, as they almost made contact again off the corner, he gets loose, and he's going to have to try to gather it up. Now that opens the door for Chad Cole to squeeze to his outside as they come off turn 2. Dylan Jones is actually going to be able to get in line. Chad Cole gave him the spot.
I'll take Chaos on aisle 2 for 500, Alex, because this is getting a little bit wild at the front of the field. Evan, 80 laps in the books. We are virtually now to the 1/3 point, actually just past the 1/3 point of this race. And if this wasn't a coming out party for Nathan Little's 2015 campaign, I don't know what is, because I believe it's the first time all season that number 41 car has been at the front of an RSR Full Throttle Cup Series event, and he's doing a very solid job. Championship contender last season, won't be in the chase this year, but wanted to prove that he can still get it done with the best of them.
We talk about guys that didn't qualify. We talk about how important track position he is here at Bristol, because you don't want to lose the lap as the 41 actually gets into the wall, and now caution flag. Gonna fly back on the racetrack. Big jump down in the corner. The 48, the 95, the 37.
Whoa, hey, oh, Nathan Little, Greg Evans, nowhere to go. The leaders get collected in this one. They shoot to the outside, and unfortunately the hole there not big enough, so pretty good damage to the right side of Nathan Little's machine. We'll get a look at the LSRTV replay. Greg Evans has got a pretty good piece of it, Evan, as well. Disaster at the front of the field.
Just about to say, talk about not qualifying, talk about not want to be the race leader. Caution flag was out for half a lap there, and you know, Nathan Little not even on the gas, just coasting down to speed. It's very difficult to see around the racetrack. His A-post on his race car, if you look on board with him, he did not see those cars at all. They were covered by the pit boxes, Jacob, and once he came to the start-finish line, he saw smoke, but the A-bar of the race car there was a complete blind spot, and as soon as he saw them, jerked the wheel, but at that point had nowhere to go. He did not see them till about 2 seconds before he got into them. Heavy contact, as you said, for the 41, and I don't know how, but somehow up through the middle in that, maybe sneaking away, that 94 machine makes quite a move, and Brundy's, I do believe, would have taken over the race lead, but it looks like right now he's scored in second. No, Nathan Little does have to come down. Brundy's avoids disaster, and for the second time tonight, it's a race leader caught up in a lap traffic accident.
Under caution yet again here at lap number 83. It's going to be 83 officially, and how did Eric Brundy's get through this, Evan?
His eyes were closed. That's all I can tell you.
I've watched this replay 3 times. I don't know how he found the hole he found.
Yeah, he lucked out at that one, and he had a little bit more of a break maybe. Than what that 41 saw, but again, Nathan Little didn't see anything. So when he saw the 41 jerk, he might have taken a look out to the left side of the race car and seen what was going on, but the 41 hesitated. He tried to go low, tried to go high. I think Brundy saw the gap and was going for it right away, or again, his eyes might have been closed, but he found the gap. The 41 was on the bottom of the racetrack when he was riding. The 94 was a little bit up into the corner, so just the luck of the draw kind of a deal, I would guess. That 94, though, again, not away scot-free, at least in that incident he was, but the White Castle Ford still working with a little bit of damage from a previous incident, and now your second place runner, 23, Greg Evans, he's got some left front damage in that race car as well from that contact.
Yeah, he does. Evans got a piece of it, and that may well end up ultimately handing the front row to Eric Brundy's and Jonathan Cadell, though Evans looks like right now he's going to kind of rough it out here because, of course, aerodynamics at Bristol not necessarily that important. So I think we're going to get a restart here on about lap 88, Evan. So still a lot to go, and a lot of guys at the front of this field that haven't won this season or haven't won ever. Dylan Jones, the rookie who finished second last week at Michigan, up in the number 4 position after taking a provisional. Chad Cole up in 5th, looking for a win before the chase starts. Shyler Brown, the rookie, in 8th, hasn't won yet. Doug Roth doesn't have a win this season, nor does Steve Gottschalk. They're both in the back half of the top 10. Talk about a night that could be a game changer for the chase, and even Jonathan Cadell to be able to go in with bonus points would be huge for that team.
Green flag drops it again. Back underway we go. Brundys to the outside of the racetrack. No surprise. But again, Greg Evans somehow making that car stick on the bottom of the racetrack. He'll go side by side. He'll take the lead in 3.
That is called a dive bomb, and it works because the caution's out again. I believe turn 4.
Smoke the 52 machine. Sean Casto in and around it. It looks like he'll be the one that goes around, but again, it looks like another incident that started in front of him. Somehow a 3-wide situation. The 69 machine slow, and it's that 52 machine of Sean Casto up the middle. 4 wide, yeah, that's not gonna work. The 69 comes up off of the apron. 52 gets turned across the nose of Brennan Mercer out into the outside of retaining wall, around a couple of times. Caution flag is out. Single car incident though.
We're going to do some business here at LSRTV and come back with more green flag action in a couple of minutes. You'll get another quick look at this caution flag, and we'll rehash the first 100 or so laps of this race coming up in just a few minutes. Right now on LSRTV, the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series from Bristol. Stay with us.
Once its sights are set, nothing can stop the ferocious lion from capturing its prey. Relying on keen senses, lions search patiently before striking with alarming speed. Wait for it. Gotcha, Mr. Piece of Rubbish. He is truly the master of his environment. Do good, be a lion.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Welcome back to LSRTV, gearing up for a restart with 93 of 225 laps complete. Still a long way to go here in Thunder Valley. The wounded Greg Evans machine is your race leader here at Bristol of the Ford Performance Night Race, and the John Deere entry going to get a good run on this American Ethanol restart. This restart again brought to you by American Ethanol. If it's good enough for NASCAR, it's good enough for your car. We're 3 wide as Eric Brundys loses a ton of time. He didn't get a good restart. Jonathan Cadell, Jeff Ward just blasted through him like he was standing still.
And typically you don't want to be in the middle, but that time the outside was not the place to be. Brundy is going backwards, quickly going to find himself in 6th before it's all said and done. Trying to get P5 back from the 5. Dan Murray just in front of him, but I'll tell you, Jonathan Cadell, I hope he's better at bowling than he is getting it around the racetrack, using the wall as a bumper. A couple of times it worked, though. The GTR Simulators Toyota now up to 4th position, and he's clear of the chaos behind him.
For the moment, anyway, chaos tends to find people at Bristol. Up front, battle for the lead, headed for turn number 1 on lap 97. The Steel Performance, number 99, Dylan Jones, looking inside of the 23 of Greg Evans. The Stroker Ace wants to take it to Steel Horse Racing. That's the battle for the point, and Dylan Jones in the middle of a Steel Horse sandwich. Jeff Ward right there in third as the leaders duke it out here coming up off the corner in turn 2.
Yeah, we talk about speed, we talk about how many laps some of these guys had done in practice. Forgotten all of that as it was that 99 Steel Timber Sport Chevy fastest Dylan C. Jones, a 15.108, put him at the top of the practice charts, did not qualify. So to go from 28th to 2nd in the first 100 laps, not a bad evening so far. However, he's got to try to make the bottom work. Greg Evans not going to give the outside lane up, and John Deere Chevy doing such a great job getting the run off the corner. The 99's not able to do a whole lot. Good run that time to the bumper. We'll have to throw it back down to the inside. The more these guys fight, though, more that second race car comes into play, as we were talking about for the Steel Horse gang. That 89 Unical Chevy of Jeff Ward right now on the doorstep.
Yeah, it's a 3-car battle, Brian, and I'm impressed at the job this Steel Horse team has done. They've got 4 cars in the top 6 right now, led by Greg Evans. You've got Jeff Ward, John O'Cadell, and Dan Murray all up inside the top half dozen, with Nick Cohan, a 5th car, up inside the top 10. So these boys at SHR, while it's been all Boomtown Sim in the last 4 or 5 weeks, they're back with a vengeance. They want to prove that they don't need to be forgotten about before this chase for the Full Throttle Cup kicks off.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. They want to prove that they can be contenders for the championship when the chase kicks off here in just a few short weeks. As the caution is out once again, we have had so many of those tonight, and we're trying to find the source of the caution now.
Scott Stenzel, front straightaway, the 42 car,
machine.
stopped right at the start-finish line. Looks like he was involved in the chaos, as was the 95, I think, Joe Dinsmore, Evan. Domino's entry.
Yeah, another issue where we see a couple of guys get together and they never really go all the way around, but it's just how the sim works. We saw 4 cars spin, no caution. Now we see 1 car get sideways. The yellow flag is out. Stenzel working through the corner. More trouble this time around. GB North. Looked like Stenzel was thinking about going to the inside on Christopher Hurlow. Elected not to and started to merge his way back down to the bottom of the racetrack. Jim Miller trying to get down on the inside. 84 makes contact. 42 never gets more than 45 degrees sideways, but then has to hop back up at a racetrack. Locks him up, and essentially, as you said, he does come to a complete stop. That may be, Brian, where the caution actually came out, when that driver came to a complete stop on a racing surface.
Yeah, it was just a really weird set of circumstances right there, and unfortunately for Scott, he's also going to be fighting with some heavy damage on that machine right now. And up front at the top of the board right now, Greg Evans, it looks like, is still your race leader. He was battling a very hard-charging Dylan Jones there, and it's really interesting to see how these guys are electing not to come to pit road. I think they realize that track position is more important than fresh tires. Not very many people have elected to come down pit road to try to get those tires. I feel like at this point in the race, it's certain you have to be out front. You can't really afford to give up the track position. We've seen these guys that have given it up. They've struggled to get back through the field, or they've had issues and been caught up in wrecks. So certainly want to try to stay as close to the front as possible. And I'm really impressed with David Comstock. He's done a really good job, even though he's been caught up in, I think, 3 of the wrecks we've had now. He's in the top 5 with that battered and beaten number 14 Monster Energy Chevrolet. So he's having a great run despite all the mayhem that he's been involved in.
A couple of drivers have been in some incidents tonight, and some getting out much better than others. You even take a look at a guy like Nicholas Cohan right now in the Racing Club Manager Toyota, 6th on the racetrack right now. He had a car sideways on the front of him for about 200 feet at a corner 4. Caution came from it, and he hasn't dropped outside of the top 10 to this point. Been able to get back up to 6th, and that race car doesn't look all that bad. Talking about Comstock, a little bit beat up, but not all that bad. Cleanest cars inside the top 10 right now go to Dylan Jones and Jeff Ward. Let's see what that 99 can do on this next restart. He's been good on the 23, but I feel like he needs to get a really good jump, because Greg Evans doing exactly what you would expect him to do, and that's protecting the outside of the racetrack. And we have seen some drivers back in the pack maybe be able to work the bottom on some of the guys around 15th position or so, but when you're racing against a guy like Greg Evans, it's going to be extremely difficult of a task to work the non-preferred lane and pass him, considering how strong he's been tonight after starting inside the top 3 and not falling much out of there.
Yeah, and looking here as we're getting ready to go back green, Jeff Ward is going to be on the inside line once again. He's going to have to try to challenge Greg Evans if he wants to get up there and try to battle for this win. He's locked into the chase. He doesn't have anything to worry about. He can go out there and try to win this race. And the rest of these guys up here, actually, there's quite a few guys up here in the top 10 that have wins and are locked into the chase. Greg Evans as well, David Comstock. As we're about to go back green here, the Irish Team 4 First Mustang's about to pull off the track.
Yeah, and it's going to leave the field in the hands of Greg Evans again as we work off turn number 4, and he wasted no time. Green flag back in the air, and about 3 car lengths in hand over the rookie as they go to turn 1, and Jonathan Goodell says, "Hi, Jeff Ward. I want to make some space on the outside." Here he comes, and look at the run by Nick Cohan, trying to steal a couple of spots on the restart. The 53 on the march up to the top 5 as well.
And he's going to ensure that there's nowhere for the 89 to jump up, though. Trouble just as we go side by side for the race lead. Caution flag is back out. Looks like Joe Dinsmore involved in this one, and that is going to be where the caution happens. 95 and the 69 going to be involved in this one through the corner. Both those cars go around. The 13 of Dwayne Vincent as well involved, and that looked like we've seen many cases where a driver on the outside gets hit a little bit hot, catches the fence. What happens when you do that on the bottom? You come up and hit the guy outside of you into the driver's side door. Looks like the 69 a little bit hot, and he turned Joe Dinsmore around, and those drivers have a discussion now on the radio.
While they're discussing on the radio, I'm looking at the fact that we have 4 Steel Horse drivers inside the top 5 right now, and a rookie, the only spoiler in that party. Dylan Jones has been unbelievable, Evan, the last couple of weeks since coming into this series. Hooked up with John Abbott's Stroker Aces team and that Steel Timber Sports number 99 machine, doing a masterful job in his first Full Throttle Cup start at Bristol. I'm really impressed by this young driver and doing a great job right now, holding his own against one of the best teams in the business. And you got to stop and picture right here. He's doing all this in a field where you'd be hard-pressed to find a bad car in the bunch.
Yeah, absolutely. We were just talking about that on that other yellow, that 99 has shown speed. He was fastest in practice, but didn't qualify. He's had quite the way to get up there, and you know, a lot of the time we'll talk about how somebody is very fast, and this is really common to talk about at Bristol. Somebody has speed, they get caught up in an incident. We've had our few share of theirs so far tonight as well, and you know, talk about a guy that may not be that fast and gets a little bit of a break. So when you're fast and you get a break, it's a pretty good deal, and Dylan Jones has been right mid-pack where a lot of these incidents have happened mid-race, and a lot of guys have been collected. Finds himself a couple of spots, and now he's up here paddling for the race lead. I feel like he's a little bit faster than Greg Evans. He's still able to continue to put that car to the bottom of the racetrack, but unless he gets to the outside, I'm not sure he'll be able to clear that 23. Greg Evans just minding his own business and protecting that preferred lane.
He's protecting that lane for the moment, and I think we're going to get a green flag here with 114 or 115 complete. So as hard as this is to believe, we've actually just passed the halfway point of this race. And let's take a look at the Ford Performance full field rundown real quick, Evan. Greg Evans, your leader. Dylan Jones, second. John O'Cadell is third. Jeff Ward, fourth, and Nick Cohan is fifth. David Comstock, Chad Cole, Eric Grundy, Schuyler Brown, David Washington, last week's Michigan winner, rounding out the top 10.
Continuing on down to the field, you got 11th position. Jimmy North, Christopher Hurlow sits in 12th. It's 13th right now for Dan Murray. Steve Gottschalk in 14th. It's a 15th for Scott Simley. Thomas Lattimore, 16th. 17th is Doug Roth. Matt Lacrosse, Douglas Wyatt, and then Scott Stenzel round out your top 20.
21st is Rich Jett, 22nd is Nick Silver, and your last car on the lead lap is Sean Casto in 23rd. The rest of your drivers are a lap down. Ryan Vaughn, 24th, Dwayne Vincent, 25th, David Camara, 26th, Corbin Hemstreet, 27th, Brennan Mercer, 28th, and out of the race from this point forward, Joe Dinsmore, Nathan Little, Thomas George, Mitch Rolo, Anthony DeBarro, Daniel Aberhart, Adam Benefield, J.R. Johnson, and Paul Fuga. And Jacob, we are about to go back green here at the Bristol Motor Speedway.
Indeed we are, Brian, and the John Deere machine is going to lead the field back to the point for the 4th time now, I believe, and Greg Evans is looking strong. It's been since early in the season that he's been to victory lane. He's trying to rectify that with a win before the chase. Green flag flies. We're back underway with 110 laps to go. chaos behind the leaders, but Greg Evans' machine is running away in turn 3.
And he had a lot of help behind him because the 11 got way sideways, big tire spin, and the 11 went back 3 wide. They dove to the apron. They went to the outside of the racetrack. Cadell finds himself now in 5th. Cohan jumps up to 4th. And Cohan's going to fight right now with Jeff Ward in 3rd. The top 2 have about half a second to the good. But again, Dylan G. Jones, good restart. Greg Evans, though, has been so good throwing it to the bottom. He got to the race lead, and because he could make up about 3 car lengths in turn 1 off of a restart, now he's up there trying to defend the 99, doing the exact same thing. They got awfully close that time down into quarter number 3. The 99 continues to trace them down and not really pulling away from 3rd, 4th, or 5th right now, but they do have a little bit of breathing room if they decide to fight.
They are trying to fight it. He squeezes it to the bottom, but Greg Evans says it's not going to happen right now. He continues to hold the point ahead of this battle that is really starting to rage back around the 9th position. Shyler Brown, 51. David Washington, 98. And look at Christopher Hurlow in the 87 back up to 11th.
99 again, peeking a nose to the inside of the racetrack. Not going to be enough, though, on corner entry, especially. That 99 has got to get on the brakes so much harder than the 23. That's going to cause him to slide back a little bit. And then once the advantage goes back to the outside off the corner, that's what makes that inside so difficult to get something going. And just 2 peaks, all it takes now. Jeff Ward right back in this picture for the race lead.
Exactly, and he's brought his teammate Nick Cohan with him. Look at Dylan Jones trying to surge to the inside. No dice. The momentum on the high lane holding Greg Evans out in front of this field as we're closing in on 100 laps to go here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. And the runs right now, 2 of our hardest chargers of the race. Douglas Wyatt, 36 to 17th, up 19 positions. And Christopher Hurlow up 21, 32nd to 11th. They're knocking on the door of the top 15 and the top 10, respectively, as we continue down the road. 125 laps going to go up on the board next time by. You're watching the Ford Performance Night Race, and we are watching a great battle for the lead here at Bristol. Greg Evans, Dylan Jones, and Jeff Ward all right for a blanket. We got 100 go. We'll go side by side so you won't miss a thing, and we'll be back to Thunder Valley after this.
green flag still out at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Battle for the lead got exciting as we stepped away. We went side by side, and you did not miss any of it. And they still stay under a blanket as they run on lap 138. Greg Evans still your race leader, 0.2 of a second advantage over Dylan G. Jones in second. And 99 starting to have to worry about the car in the rearview mirror more than the car in front of him. Jeff Ward really starting to put the pressure on from behind for that second spot, but things are about to heat up because race leader Greg Evans quickly approaching lap traffic, and already bit 2 race leaders so far today, 23, trying to find the quickest way through.
Yeah, how about lap traffic? Brennan Mercer on the bottom of the racetrack, Scott Stenzel up ahead, and these guys working, as hard as this is for me to say, Ryan, actually rather calmly through lap traffic right now. Nobody really putting up a whole ton of a fight as Evans leads Jones, Ward, Cohan, and is it hard for me? Is it hard for me to say, or wrong of me to say that I'm a little surprised that David Comstock is running 5th right now? I mean, I know he's been at the front of just about every race this season, but this is the quietest 5th place run I've seen from him in a long time.
Well, if you were listening in on his scanner, it hasn't been quiet on his radio. He has been all over the radio all night long. He's been frustrated because he's been in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's been caught up in a couple of the wrecks, and to be able to go through all that and still be in the top 5 after 140 laps, I'd say is a mission accomplished for this team. And They didn't have high expectations on this race. This is not one of David's better racetracks, and he knew that coming in. He struggled during practice. He was only 25th in practice, and he qualified 11th, so certainly did not have the speed that they were looking for. So to be in the top 5 or 6 right now, I certainly think is a mission accomplished for him here. And with about 80 laps to go, he's just looking to bring it home in one piece and try not to get caught up in anything else and maybe get a decent finish out of this.
He's trying to, and I'm watching another guy that's coming back through the pack for about the second time tonight, Evan. The 87 machine of Christopher Hurlow has worked his way back up to the 8th position, and I just have this funny feeling if he can ever get through traffic that he's got the speed of these front 4 or 5 guys, and I feel like if he could get the track position as a caution's going to come out to get him caught up to the field, he may be able to contend over the last 75 laps.
He was working it with a little bit of damage as well, so not quite as fast as he was earlier. As you mentioned, no caution flag back out on the racetrack. This is going to be a single car incident. Go for the 55 Kellogg Chevy, a Douglas Wyatt. Going to be a solo car spin as he claims responsibility for the yellow over the team radio to race control. Got a little bit too hot and heavy chasing the Kodak entry at X Silver, it looks like, and ended up getting turned around and went head on into the inside of retaining wall. Heavy damage on the nose of that machine. Quickly, though, got it down and out of the way. So again, nobody else going to get caught up and involved in this one, but a single car incident. Going to bring us all back together once everybody was just starting to get some distance. How about this? Dylan Jones down pit road. Greg Evans and everybody else. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, pit stops, and Brian, I want to say this could be the final time you'll see a lot of these guys down on pit road tonight. It's pretty easy as far as fuel goes to make it to the end from here. Do you think we see anybody come for tires later in this race?
I really think it just depends on how many green flag laps we get from here to the finish. If they have a whole series of cautions like we've seen throughout most of the evening, then yes, this was the last time you'll see these drivers on pit road. If we have another 50 lap run and then have a caution with, say, 25 or 30 to go, I think you'll see a split strategy. I think you'll see some guys come in and get tires and try to take advantage of the fresh tires, but I think you might see some of these guys, like you were alluding to with Christopher Hurlow and some of these other guys that are a little bit deeper back in the pack that need some track position, they might elect to stay out and try to steal this thing here at the end of the race. It's all going to depend on when and how many of the cautions fly.
That's going to be the key, isn't it, Evan? I mean, with about 75 to go, who do you like at the front of this field, or do you like somebody that's maybe not at the front of the field just yet?
I almost feel like being in first place has not been a good place to be tonight. I think it's hard to bet against that 99 of Dylan Jones. We've been talking about guys who have been going backwards and been going forward. Sure, the 99 hasn't been up front and led laps yet today, but he has a clean race car. We talked about earlier, Bristol's a tough track. It's where the veterans are going to shine through, but because it's Bristol, the veterans might not make it to the end of this one. Take a look at a couple of these guys throughout here. I think if you're talking sheer speed and somebody who's keeping their car clean enough to be able to be there at the end when it matters, and if they have to make a desperate move late, that car will stick more likely over somebody else's who's working with damage. I'd put my money on that 99 machine who falls back to 6th after that cycle of pit stops.
Brian, traffic has scared me all night long. I don't know that you want to be off those first 2 rows because it just leads the potential of chaos for anybody that's outside that top 4 or so.
Yeah, we've seen it all night that the front leaders have had the advantage all night long, and for Dylan Jones being shuffled back to 6th, he's got his work cut out for him trying to work back up there. I think he's got the best car in this top 10, but not having the track position is going to end up hurting him. He's not going to be able to pass these guys very easily. He's going to have to start getting aggressive and possibly using the bumper if he wants to make it happen.
Okay, so using the bumper. Those are words that we're used to hearing at Bristol. And, we're going to gear up for a restart here as Greg Evans going to be in front of the field with teammate Jeff Ward joining him on the front row. They're going to add a lap of caution right here just to get everybody lined up a little bit better. So, 2 guys who neither one of them, Evan, have won since about the first third of the season, but they're right up where they need to be here tonight. And I keep going back to Nick Cohan in that 53 who needs a win to qualify for the chase and is right in the thick of things right now in that 53 car.
Hey, this one's still far from over, about just under now 75 laps left. And if you talk about how long these stints have been going, we'll see a couple more cautions and who knows who's going to be around them. I think anybody inside the top 10 realistically still has a shot, but it doesn't hurt to be out in the front.
No, it doesn't. Green flag flies once again. We have 152 complete, 73 to go. David Washington to the bottom of the racetrack. 1 car blending up. Thomas Lattimore and Nick Cohan get spun.
Around and caution. Back out.
Evan, I hate to say it, but we were just talking about him, and you're the one that has told me I've been jinxing people all season long.
Yeah, I didn't want to say his name when you brought him up, but yeah, contact and again inside the big pack. If we weren't going green, I would have ended off my statement by saying anybody inside the top 10 still in this, but if something happens inside the top 10, that's a bad spot to be. Well, the 53, a little bit of a tap from behind. I was telling you how the 99 has been clean all night long. That's the cleanest car on the racetrack, probably one of the fastest. Trying to find a way through, can dive in a little bit deeper. He hits into the 53 comes down, the 5 ends up turning him around. Could have been a lot worse, but still Cohan gets the short end of the straw in that one. But that incident could have very easily hurt the 14 to 99 to 5. All of them get a little bit of damage, but it is a lot less likely than what it could have been, and they'll stay inside the top 10 unless they like to come down and get those things fixed. Looks like they're going to stay out, though.
So under yellow, now 70 laps to go. We are going to step away for a moment here at Bristol and do some business. Come back right after this to the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking. Greg Evans, Jeff Ward, David Washington, David Comstock, Dylan Jones, your top 5. Jones going to drop to the rear after claiming that yellow. From Bristol Motor Speedway, you're watching LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Trucking has always been a part of me. It started years ago when my dad and granddad were hauling vegetables to market in Liverpool. The family immigrated to Canada in the late 60s and settled near Alliston, Ontario. I bought my first truck in 1982 and Mercer Trucking was born. Today, Mercer Trucking has over 50 trucks in terminals in Toronto and Los Angeles. Our storage facilities at both terminals can handle any size of distribution needs throughout North America. We service the continental U.S., including Hawaii and Alaska. We run over 120,000 miles per month and some of the best equipment on the road today. We specialize in less than truckload shipments, show freight, we do rush team service deliveries, and haul your refrigerated or heated product. Our regular team service from Canada to California is second to none, and our staff and drivers are among the best in the business. I'm proud of our people and what they can achieve. Trucking is in my blood, it's my livelihood, and it's what I do best.
Welcome back to LSRTV and the Ford Performance Night Race at Bristol Motor Speedway, gearing up for yet another restart. Greg Evans, Jeff Ward, the teammates back on the front row. David Comstock, the surprise of the night, up in fourth. American Ethanol green flag flies once again, and now the battle is on around third as Comstock and Chad Cole, and then Washington and Ward. It's deadlocked behind the race leader, 2 by 2, but Greg Evans is out front.
And that's great news for the 23 who's been sweating bullets and looking in the rearview mirror before this caution for the last 50 laps. Might be able to breathe for a little bit. The more they fight, the bigger that gap gets. He's half a second in front of the fight for second. Winner in all of that's going to be Jeff Ward. No, 98 takes a peek back down to the bottom. Won't be enough, though, to stay there and now give Jeff Ward sole possession of the number 2 spot on the racetrack. David Washington third. Fourth and fifth up for grabs. Comstock on the high side. It's Chad Cole down to the inside. Not much brewing, though, for the 8 on the bottom.
Not a whole lot going, and we got a caution on the racetrack, so we're going to slow the pace again at lap 161, and trouble on the backside of the racetrack.
52 car of Sean Casto starts this one on the bottom, comes up and just goes over the nose, really, of the 15 of Scott Simley, and immediately he did not have kind words for the driver of the 52. The 15 ended up in a fence, got hit one more time, and once everybody got sideways, things did not end well as Simley came back down. The 91 gets turned, the 87 ends up in a wall as well. So the 52 machine thought somebody was on the bottom, and the 15 making his thoughts known that he did not like the move by the 52 car.
Yeah, tempers are certainly beginning to flare up here in the Bristol Motor Speedway, and as we get later into this race, it's only going to get worse, and these drivers are going at it in their voice chat there on the service, and it's not going to get any better. Race control may have to step in at some point and say, look guys, just calm down and wait till after the race. I've seen them do it in the past, and I'm sure if things get out of control, they'll do it here, but meanwhile, this is helping Greg Evans. He's been out front for most of this race, and I want to just take a second to remember back to practice. He ran more laps in practice than he's going to complete in this race if he completes the full 225 laps. He ran 234 laps in practice, so I'm beginning to wonder if those laps didn't pay off for him. He's been out front for most of this race tonight, and he's certainly done a great job holding on to that lead and holding these guys off.
Under caution, still working this yellow at lap 164. We're going to get the restart with just under, I think, 60 laps to go, and we're seeing Scott Simley now on pit road. Quietly, Chad Cole's DeWalt Chevrolet is having a very solid night. I hesitate to say more than that because about the time I do, we're going to see something happen here at the front of the field. But another guy that's having a good night, Evan, is our Daytona 250 winner, Rich Jett, who is going to make the chase this season and has rallied from 33rd to 9th tonight in one of his better performances this season. Good night for the 36 camp.
Yeah, we talk about tempers flaring. He's been able to stay out of that for what's been going on about an hour and a half since we got our first couple of drivers bickering back and forth. The number 36, car's clean. As you mentioned right now, up about 25 spots in the running order. All that bad for the Wave Chevrolet right now, who's inside the top 10 and could be gunning for a top 10 spot to pad that points thing that you guys were talking about. Going to be good to go for this 2015 chase. Another top 10, though, in the stat book won't hurt at all.
No, it won't. So we're going to work on getting ready to double them up. I believe we'll get lights out this time by. Brian, what do you make of David Comstock in fourth right now? I know we still got 60 laps to go, but do you think that he's still biding his time a little bit, just waiting to see where he shakes out with 20 or maybe 30 laps to go here?
Well, I think the sole fact that he's inside the top 5 after all that he's been through in this race tonight certainly speaks volumes for what this race team is capable of. We haven't talked a lot about the Timmy Hill Motorsports group as a whole because they've had a lot of issues, and right now it's just him and Brennan Mercer out there, but they've certainly done a great job. And I think as we get down to the end of this race, David's in a position where with having the number of wins that he's got, he doesn't have to worry. He can go out there and do what he needs to do. So he's certainly an aggressive enough driver. I think he'll take the risk to try to go for the win.
It's going to be interesting to see, isn't it? That outside lane's been tough on the restarts, but it's been the place to be every time else. We're going to have 59 laps to go when we get the green flag. Look at the run. Greg Evans brought the field down real slow. Jeff Ward tried to take advantage. He had to back off, and that's going to give the second spot to David Washington as they stack up 3 wide behind the leaders in 2.
And with the leaders gone pretty much on the pace car all night long to 23 as the control car, he can wait till the sim throws the green flag after the entire restart box played it perfectly. Only issue for him is he wasn't able to shake David Washington. Didn't shake no Jeff Ward, so now Jeff Ward going to be able to hang on to third. Comes back out of that 3 wide as the lead car, only half a second back. Comstock in 4th, 5th position. Now going to go in favor of Dan Murray. He'll swap spots as Chad Cole falls 1. And there's that 36 Rick Jett up 1 spot on the restart, looking for more down the back.
He really is doing a very nice job going toe-to-toe with some of the veterans of this sport in Chad Cole, Jonathan Cadell, Dan Murray, Richie Jett, certainly a wily veteran himself. How about the battle for the lead? Last week's rookie winner, David Washington's trying to go 2 in a row. He won at Michigan. He's trying to win at Bristol now. He is putting pressure all over the back deck lid of Greg Evans' John Deere Chevrolet SS, and that battle for the lead raging off turn 2 and down the back stretch as Jeff Ward closing in to make it a 3-man freight train once again.
And side-by-side 43 car, Doug Roth so far up the STP machine, up into the outside wall. The 53 looks like Cohan may have brushed the wall again. Rich Jett sideways in the corner as he tries to maintain that position and not fall any further down. He almost came up over the nose of the 43. Doug Roth had to get hard on the binders. That's going to allow Shiloh Brown and Scott Stenzel to catch up. How about that 42 of Stenzel? But in a couple of incidents so far tonight, running top 15 and in a big fight on the racetrack. Simley on the outside and side-by-side behind them as well. Jimmy North hard into the fence again, the 84. That's going to allow the 28 car by.
To be honest, I didn't even catch that we haven't had enough cautions to put Scott Stenzel back on the lead lap. A couple of lucky dogs has helped out the 42 machine. He's back in the thick of things looking for a decent finish. Next time by, it will be 50 laps to go here in Thunder Valley, and it's a 3-man fight for the win. Maybe make it 4 as David Comstock's broken free of Dan Murray, and now he's trying to close in from about 8 car lengths back. But David Washington is the man on the move as he's putting the pressure again on the 23 of Greg Evans.
And Washington, as we said, trying to look for a second trip to victory lane. Not going to be eligible, though, for the 2015 chase. Not going to have enough points to get to the top 30. Why not play spoiler and try to cut that string of first-time winners and try to not let anybody else into the chase by getting a first-time winner? I'm sure a lot of those chase guys, especially guys down towards the bottom of the top 16 without a win, would sure appreciate David Washington or Greg Evans as well. Going to victory lane right now, the 23, the 98, 1-2 on the racetrack. Jeff Ward, though, I wouldn't be surprised if the 89 told him something, Jacob. Washington and Evans are going at it. Evans was going at it earlier in this race just a little bit ago with Dylan Jones, and through all of that thick and thin, it's always been Jeff Ward just kind of sitting behind him in third and keeping an eye on what's going on up front.
I believe it was Brian Macklin in the spring here that told us before the start of the race that one of the keys to Bristol is not using up your stuff too soon, Brian. You were behind the wheel at that point. Now in the broadcast booth with us, does that still ring true?
Well, I would want to say that yes, that is true, but if you look at these front runners, they're pretty tore up for the most part. I think David Washington's the only one that doesn't have any significant damage, but even he's been caught up in a few things. So normally, yes, you would want to see, you want to go out there and have a clean race the entire night and not get involved in anything and fight through the attrition and take home a good finish or possibly the win. But for Greg Evans, his car is mutilated, and as is the 89 and David Comstock, Dan Murray, all these guys have significant damage on their cars, and they're sitting here in the top 5 with a shot to win this race. So that kind of proves my point to be wrong. but it's certainly still been a great race for these guys up front. David Washington is clearly all over the back bumper of Greg Evans now, and they're catching lap traffic. That's going to change things. The last time the leaders had to deal with lap traffic, that's when Corbin Hemstreet was out front, and Mitch Rolo was out front, and we had some issues trying to fight through the traffic when they were side by side. So it's going to be interesting to see now that they're starting to catch the rear of the pack, how they're going to work through the traffic this time.
Yeah, we're only going to have about 40 laps to go as well. But, you know, if you're these top three and you see guys like David Washington, Jeff Ward trying to dive bomb the bottom of the racetrack, and you see Washington starting to fall back a little bit now, Evan, do you think maybe the 98 used up his stuff a little too soon right here?
Well, we've seen that it takes a lot to stick that car to the bottom of the racetrack. I mean, again, the outside is really the place to be, and when you're going to the bottom, one thing that we mentioned is you're really getting hard on the brakes. Dylan Jones was fast when he was in second. He fell mid-pack, and he no longer has that speed. Now, that's after even a cycle of pit stops, so even Washington to be slowing just a little bit may not be necessarily. Oh, right in front of our leaders, into the inside wall, car around. That's the 37 of J.R. Johnson.
Yeah, he's been caught up in a couple of incidents tonight, and that's going to bring out the caution flag at lap 187. And we're going to see now what the leaders will do in a couple of minutes. We'll go side by side, but we're going to take another commercial break so we can bring you more green flag action here at Bristol from Thunder Valley. This is Live Sim Racing TV.
It's been a very long offseason. Teams have changed, sponsors have changed, colors and all, but one thing that hasn't, they like to mash the loud pedal. Green flag is out on the 2015 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series season.
iRacing is the ideal platform for these broadcasts because we have the best racers, the best online racers in the world, and we have such a variety of racing from NASCAR to Grand Prix style racing, sports car endurance racing. We do it all.
Since 2010, the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series has been the absolute pinnacle of road racing in a simulated form. Great start then by Yakoda from the front. They're packing up behind number one. They're going to be 4 wide as they come down into turn number 1 for the first time. Will they make it through that first corner? You can see them funneling through the center S's. It looks as though everyone is just about made it. We have got ourselves some contact though, Rachel.
Side by side going into turns 3 and 4. Humpy's got the advantage, but Ottinger's not going to.
Oh, he got into him!
Ottinger gets into the 58, turns right into him, and that ends Ottinger's run.
We do a lot of live broadcasts now. Every Tuesday is NASCAR night, so on alternating Tuesdays we do the Peak Antifreeze Series, and on the other Tuesdays the B-Class Series, which is the Xfinity cars, and sometimes we'll even do some short track racing depending on the schedule. Every other Saturday we do the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, so the best road racers we have. And we also broadcast some special events, including the Endurance Championship, which is part of the Road Warriors Series. So we broadcast the Daytona 24, the Sebring 12-hour, we'll do the Watkins Glen 6-hour, several other races along there. And then, of course, the iRacing Pro Racing Champions, which is usually our biggest and most watched event of the year.
That is short track racing, and that's how awesome this sim is, Joe. That's something you see on TV on highlight reels, and we just saw it here, live.
We invite iRacers who are real-world racers, and they compete every December. Guys like Alex Gurney, Justin Wilson, Scott Speed, Ron Capps, the list goes on. Really some big name drivers from all major forms of motorsport. It's really neat to see them get together and race together.
See Laughlin up top, down to the ball, gets turned! Laughlin gets turned! Caution is out foul at the front of the field!
The easiest place to find the broadcast is on our.
Welcome back to LSRTV, working the 12th caution flag of the night here at Bristol Motor Speedway. Jacob Thielman, Evan Pasoko, Brian Macklin gearing up for another American Ethanol restart here in Thunder Valley. Greg Evans, David Washington, still the front row. We're only going to have, though, 33 laps to go, so I think it's go time. Racing Ford First Mustang pace car for the pit lane. The American Ethanol green flag flies once again, and Greg Evans does what he's done all night. Take off from the front of the field, and he leads the way as Jeff Ward squeezes up in front of David Comstock. That battle for third is one of the best on the racetrack.
Ward knows if he stuck down there on the bottom, though, there was a lot of other cars coming behind just David Comstock. The 99 of Dylan Jones, Nicholas Cohan as well in 6th position. It was primitive for him to be able to get back up in line. He does so now. He tries to go back forward. Problem is, it is still David Washington in 2nd, and he still sits in 3rd. Hasn't really been able to put up a challenge for any of them quite yet, but you talk about Bristol, you talk about a bump and run. If our leaders get a little bit inch a bit, we'll call it, late here in this one, Jeff Ward could be in a good spot.
Yeah, he may well be, and by closer math and inspection, Brian Macklin, we've actually had 13 caution flags so far tonight. So, but you know, after everything that's gone on tonight, can you blame me for missing one in all this?
Yeah, this has been a wild race, and you're on board on the rear bumper of Rich Jet right now. As we have a wreck off turn 2, Ryan Vaughn in the 28. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but he is around on the back straightaway. It looks like he had contact with the 36 of Rich Jet as they came off turn 2. That sent him propelling into the outside wall and then down into the inside wall, and heavy smoke pouring from the rear bumper of that machine. Back under caution for what is now the 14th caution here tonight at Bristol.
And then there were 28 laps to go, Evan, and
I thought you were going to say
night.
28 drivers, and I was going to say it's a lower number than that.
How do we even have 23 cars on the lead lap right now?
Well, a lot of them are limping around, and unfortunately for a lot of these guys, first off, you know, that's another RCO Boomtown Sim affiliated car with Ryan Vaughn. They have not had a good night, but, you know, involved in an incident as well as a 28 gets turned around is the number 52, so that's another incident on the racetrack, you know, that 52 machine gets involved in, and just driving by, stuck in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sean Casto gets damaged out of all of that. A lot of it, it's the same drivers who, you know, we talk about how when you get that one machine who gets into an incident earlier, you know, we were talking about earlier in this year, Thomas J. George not having the best of luck. They get in an incident and they're out of the race. Some of these guys, I mean, they've gotten hit 3-4 times and they're still in a top 20, top 15 spot.
So coming down to it now, I guess Greg Evans has proven that the lead can be a safe place to be. Brian Macklin, do you like the 23 now with only 25 laps to go or thereabouts?
Yeah, with 25 laps to go, and he's been out front for pretty much the entire race. I know we've had a handful of other drivers that have led, but this has been the man that's been out front all night. I like where he's at. I like his position. The only thing that's going to take this away from him is if that number 98 of David Washington gets a little aggressive and maybe uses that rear bumper or front bumper and tries to move Greg out of the way. That's about the only way you're going to see a pass get made at this point. And he has nothing to lose. He's not going to be able to get into the chase, as we've already alluded to. He's too far out of the top 30 in points. Even though he's got that win, he's not going to get in. So he has nothing to lose. Let's go out here and prove a point. Let's try to win some races and show these guys that we're strong enough to contend for the championship next year. So I like this position that David Washington's in. And then for Jeff Ward and David Comstock, they're just kind of sitting back watching and waiting to see what's going to happen. So it's going to get really exciting. I'm looking forward to the restart and looking forward to what these guys do up front.
Coming down to it, Evan, oh boy, can you bet against the 23 right now?
Well, earlier I was saying when you guys asked that I was going to go with Dylan Jones. He's in 5th, and 25 laps sounds like a lot of time, but unless there's a wreck in front of him, I feel like, you know, you got to go with Brian on that one. Greg Evans is in a perfect spot. The only thing that you can't guarantee as the race leader is that you don't get hit from behind. If he doesn't get hit from behind, I think that John Deere Chevy is going to be pretty good right now. The 98, the 89, they're fast. They've been good with him on restarts, but they just haven't been able to do enough to get to him, and when they do, the inside's not working out. And I think Greg Evans right now may be his race to lose unless he gets a little bit of help.
And the rookie on the outside, David Washington, I mean, how impressive a performance he's put in tonight after a win a week ago at Michigan, and Dylan Jones back up inside the top 5, you know. Could he make a run in the closing laps? As we're going to have about 23 laps remaining, When we get the green here, the lights are off on the iRacing Ford First Mustang pace car. It's going to head for the pit lane, and we're going green flag racing. A good restart by the Steel Horse guys on the inside, and even for Dylan Jones, who dives to the bottom of David Comstock. Battle for second as Washington looks to use the high lane. Jeff Ward was down low, but he couldn't hold the 98, who is right there on the top shelf.
And again, they fight for second on back. Good news for race leader. The 8 on Jeff Ward sideways that time off the quarter. 98 to David Washington through. How about David Comstock trying to take third? He'll do so now down the back straightaway. And a 99 joining the party as well. Looks like that 89 machine may be just stuck on the bottom. And that puts David Washington still into that second spot. Jeff Ward, though, continues to sink.
Continues for now, and he slides up in front of teammate Dan Murray in the Abreu Vineyards entry, and Murray really gave him a hole, but Greg Evans right now out in front. He's led since, I think, Evan, just after lap 100? That 23 car took the lead and hasn't given it back since.
And I don't think he plans on giving it back anytime soon. Got some left front damage earlier in the race, and much like a lot of these guys, they may have thought they would have been done at that point, but with the level of attrition, a little bit of damage, not all that bad. And right now, 5/10 to the good. Greg Evans looks like he is trying to chase this one down. Going to be coming up in the final 18 laps or so this next time by the start-finish line. Gap back to David Washington and company only continues to grow as they continue to have spirited battles inside and around the top 10. Battle for P10 right now. The 51 of Shiler Brown holding off right now. Chad Cole. It's going to be a fight for 9th with the 25 Kodiak entry of Nick Silver in the mix. But it looks like Greg Evans in the clear for the moment. All he wants to hope is that he doesn't catch him in lap traffic.
That's exactly what he wants to hope. We're going to have 16 laps to go when we come back to the line. And Brian, for David Comstock, who said he had, quote, no expectations coming into the night, even to finish on the podium tonight, has got to feel like a win for this 14 crew headed towards the chase. Just 2 races left before the cutoff after tonight.
Yeah, this is a big momentum builder for this team, considering they didn't expect a lot coming into this race to be in the top 3 here with just over 15 laps to go. That's a big deal for them, and they've been the hot team all season long. They've got the most wins out of anybody, and they certainly have to be in the catbird seat for this championship. I'm looking forward to seeing what they've got to do in the chase. They still have a chance to win this race, too. If they can get caught up to David Washington and Greg Evans, they could certainly make a battle out of this.
I'm not buying it. I'll believe it when I see it. But as I say that, Washington cuts a 10th out of Greg Evans' lead with now 13 laps to go. The gap 0.3 of a second, almost 0.4 of a second. Closing in. I think if we get to traffic, Evan, it's going to play a factor, but there's only a dozen to go when they come to the line this time.
And Greg Evans, for him, the good news is that track looks clear in front of him. First car that he would catch up to, rather, is Joe Dinsmore, who's in the middle of 1 and 2, just as Greg Evans is working still through quarters number 3 and 4 right now. So he's got plenty of room to work with. Unless something happens with the lap traffic, they get in an incident, the track is blocked. We have seen that tonight, so although you can't rule anything out, it's looking pretty good right now for Greg Evans. Problem is, though, that gap back to David Washington has shrunk significantly, and if you get a guy that hasn't been able to be on your bumper this entire time, well, the 98 has been able to, for the last at least 50 laps, ride in second or so after Dylan Jones fell back after some yellow flag pit stops. The 98's been there, but he hasn't been able to make the challenges, and that's a little concerning if I'm that 23, because if he hasn't, I guess he doesn't know what's going to work, and when they get to the inside, he might have to get a little bit physical. We'll see, but he's there now.
He is, and keep in mind, Brian, this is a team that has nothing to go for except for a win. They're not in a position to worry about the chase. He's just going out to try and get a trophy, and he's going to have a shot and about a green-white checker restart because we got a caution at lap 218. Big wreck.
And Doug Roth getting the brunt of that one. The 43 turned around on the apron. The 84 involved as well. And it looks like Doug Roth just ran Jimmy North out of room. And talking about guys that have been in a couple, that's at least the 4th one for Jimmy North. The 36 driver that, I believe it was Jacob, again, that had brought up earlier in this one. Rich Jett was running strong. Rich Jett involved in this one. Looks like the 9 of Anthony DeBarro as well. The 96, that's 2 more RCO Boomtown cars in that one again.
All right, so this, by my feeble math skills, Evan, is going to set up what I believe will be a green-white checker finish. Do we see a bump and run?
I think a green-white checker would almost be better for Greg Evans than if we stayed green, because the last 2 restarts, it has been side-by-side for second. That has been the first battle on the racetrack for the first 2 laps. That's all Greg Evans needs. The big thing is, though, he needs to get the jump, and he can't fool the guy behind him too much, because if he fools David Comstock's not going to be next to David Washington, and Washington's going to be clear. So the 23 just needs to get exactly what he has had the last 2 times. He needs them to fight behind him, but most importantly, he needs to make sure that he keeps them guessing on the restart. We have seen again earlier in this race, all the race leaders were going right when the pace car ducked down. People started to try to guess that. We mixed things up, and the leader left these guys 1.2 seconds into the back once he changed it up a little bit. So Greg Evans, he's got to think of what he wants to do. He has to change up what he's going to do restart procedure-wise from what he did last time.
And if they're able to call the bluff, Brian, that's going to make it a whole new ball game. Is there any way David Washington wins this race? And if so, what's the rookie got to do to try and go back to victory for the second time in his career and the second time in 2 weeks?
He's going to have to use the bumper. It's pretty simple. Unless he can time the restart and stay to the outside of Greg Evans when they go back green, he's going to have to get aggressive, and he's going to have to use that front bumper and try to move Greg Evans out of the way. I don't think there's any other option unless he can time the restart and stay to his outside when they get down to turns 1 and 2. And that puts David Comstock in a very opportune position, because if those guys get racing side by side, he could stick it in there, make it 3 wide, maybe make something happen, and steal this thing after having such a eventful evening, getting caught up in so many wrecks and still managing to find himself up here in the top 3. He has a shot to win this race, and it's going to be really interesting. I expect you'll see some beating and banging here on this restart.
Well, that's what people pay to come and see at Bristol, isn't it? They don't call it, Evan, the last great Coliseum for nothing.
That's because these guys are going to do battle, and you know, everybody's sticking around. It's been a long night out at the racetrack. It's been a high attrition rate, double digits, out for the caution flags and up to about 50 laps under the yellow. But you can throw all of that out the window, because the only thing that's going to matter is the next 2 or 3.
Yeah, and I believe we should get lights out this time by, which means, if I'm right, we will have a green-white checker finish, and it looks like the field is indeed doubling up. So it all comes down to this. Evan, Brian, who you taking?
I'm sticking with Greg Evans. He's up front, and I think if he can nail the restart, he's good.
I got to go with David Washington. I think he's going to use the bumper, get aggressive, and steal this thing.
I'm going to be different than both of you and go David Comstock just to see what happens on the restart. He could shock the world right here. We're going green, white, checker in Thunder Valley. It's David Washington. Who's it gonna be? Evans times the restart. We are away and we are green, though David Washington got a much better restart this time, pitches it to the high lane, and it's only gonna be a car length as they work off 2.
The bad news for your race leader is that they're not in double file behind him. The good news is he's pulling a lot of ground on the 98. White flag in the air, 1 more lap to go.
Yeah, back to 1 and 2 this time. The teammates, Dylan Jones gave Washington a shot off turn number 2. He's going to have 1 shot to try and dive bomb it into turn number 3. Evans goes low to block the dive bomb, and that's going to be the move that sends him to victory lane for the second time in 2015. Greg Evans is a Full Throttle Cup Series winner. He takes the Thunder Valley race here tonight and wins the Ford Performance Night Race at Bristol. Washington first and second the last 2 weeks, and his teammate Dylan Jones on the podium again. Runs third tonight. Jeff Ward, David Comstock, the rest of the top 5. And how about the door slam by teammate Jeff Ward? Dan Murray giving him some love. The 11 of Cadell is in the mix. The celebration is big for Steel Horse. They're back in victory lane. Gosh, for the first time in a while, Evan.
Yeah, and it wasn't his best, but it was one of the better restarts of the night. That's exactly what he needed. And, you know, it's been not necessarily a rough couple of weeks, but that team's been in the headlines a little bit here recently, and they've been on the short end of the star a couple of times. Greg Evans going to get the job done tonight. He's not going to let that little bit of damage overcome him, and he's not going to allow that melee and a lot of pressure behind him get the best of him tonight. He's going to put that 23 Chevy in victory lane. coming through in the end when he needed it. And I think the big thing there was it didn't hurt that Dylan Jones got into the back of David Washington, but add a 2 on that restart. He got up to the high side because he got clear. He got so much of a better run than David Washington did. He was 4 car lengths cleared, and they closed it back into 2, but it was that great restart and getting back to the throttle quickly, had confidence in his race car that he could do it. That's what gave him the space he needed.
And we're going to do business with our podium finishers on the LSRTV post-race show when we come back. But for the moment, congratulations going out to the John Deere entry. Greg Evans, for the second time this season, a winner. He takes it in Thunder Valley. We're back with more on LSRTV right after this.
I'm Dan Garrison, software engineer at iRacing. Since the beginning of Papyrus and through iRacing, the track has been unchanging through a session. Whatever you have at the beginning is what you have for the duration of the session and the end. The track doesn't change. What we want to do is be able to have the track respond to what's going on, to have cars interact with the track, to have the track change in temperature, in the amount of rubber. We want marbles, and we want those to be generated by the cars, putting them where they should be and picking them up and rethrowing them off the race line. It's a physical-based model that we focus on first and foremost. The tire and the track interaction, what's really going on there. It would be easy to just quickly throw something together. Our standards are, it needs to make sense. What's really going on, even at the molecular level between the track and the tire. The way the track works, essentially, is we divide it up into small cells that your car interacts with. So if you're adding temperature to a certain part of the track, we can pretty accurately know exactly where that is. That gets transmitted to the server. So if I'm in a race, my data is going to the server with everybody else in the session. The server accumulates that and basically broadcasts a consistent track state to everyone, so everyone's got the same track that they're racing on. One of the big challenges was being able to implement this dynamic track with any number of clients connected and have it just work as you would expect. Have it be the same for everyone in the service who's in a session. So to kind of give a little bit of a preview of the state of things right now, I basically have run a number of laps at 5 flags with the effects exaggerated for demonstration purposes so that we can kind of immediately see what's going on with the track. Right here is basically the track at the beginning of the session. There is a little bit of rubber on there that's put programmatically. That's the starting state of this track, and it's fairly low rubber at this point. If we skip ahead to the end, I did about 30 laps, so at the very end you can kind of see all this darkened in right here. This is where I was running the car, so well, there you go. And again, this is exaggerated. A single car in 30 laps is not going to darken the track anywhere near this level. We also have the ability to see the temperature, similar to an IR camera. At the beginning of the session, it's a little bit warm down here. It's very cool up here. As we skip ahead, all of a sudden this part of the track has become very warm. This is where I was running the car. And we can also drag the little thumbnail and see the effect of time as the track cools off and returns back to its equilibrium state. Before we had fairly symmetrical tracks. Now, because the sun is shining at some angle, one side of the track might be particularly hot, and 180 degrees around the track is going to be significantly cooler because the sun isn't really pointing at that. So you're on a track where maybe you basically treated it as 2 equal halves. Now you need to adjust to that. With multiple cars over a long race, you're going to have to seek out where's the grip, where is it going, how is the track changing. It's going to require a much more intelligent approach to racing. You're going to have to be able to handle the track through the life of the race. So in addition to temperature and rubber, we're also spending a lot of time working with marbles, putting them on the track where they should be. later in a race, you can expect there to be marbles offline. And so a pass might be a little more sketchy later in the race because you're going to have to go through part of the track that has accumulated some rubber. On the oval side,
Welcome back to LSRTV, getting ready for the post-race show. Jacob Seelman, Brian Macklin, Evan Pasoko headed trackside in a moment, and I know Brian's already headed that way, Evan, but I'll turn to you first as we're ready to head that way as well. Where do you start tonight? I mean, this was a race that we come into it with tough circumstances. We come into it with anticipation for drivers that need wins to get in the chase, but at the end of the night, we just end up with a whole lot of wrecked equipment. I mean, this was a tough race to watch, not because the racing at the front of the field wasn't good, but the racing everywhere else, just there were cars torn up everywhere tonight.
And there was a couple of incidents there, and not an ugly situation if you use the description as it was a stupid move that somebody did, but when your race leader gets caught up in lap traffic, he gets wrecked out and then gets turned by his teammate. It's just an ugly situation. It's not a good thing to have to see. And a lot of these guys who have had struggles and just got back rolling now tonight really shot them down, because a lot of guys really struggled through this one. We always talk about how Bristol can be crazy. We expect some rubbing, we expect some wrecking, but tonight was a Bristol race to define Bristol Motor Speedway, because it was quite the rough go out there for these guys. And 19 of them made it the 225 laps, albeit maybe 3, if that, made it through clean. But that's Bristol under the lights. Maybe it was a full moon. I'll blame it on that.
I think you will. And meanwhile, we're going to go trackside where Brian Macklin, I believe you have found the rookie who has now been on the podium in 2 consecutive races. Dylan Jones, a nice drive tonight to come back through the field and place 3rd.
Yeah, I have caught up with the 3rd place finisher, driver of the number 99, Dylan Jones. Dylan, you had a crazy night. You didn't qualify. You elected to take a provisional and start in the 28th position. You worked your way all the way up through the field and managed to come home with a 3rd place finish, despite having been caught up in a wreck where you actually claimed the caution and had to go to the rear of the field. What was it like having the ups and downs for you tonight, trying to work your way through the field and knowing you had to do so only on the outside line unless you got lucky on a restart?
Oh man, I don't know if crazy is just a word for it. We messed up qualifying, went out there, screwed it all up. Started in the back, and then had to claim a caution. Bristol's really hard. Somebody check up a little bit in front of you, you tag them. Then you get turned around, ran back up through the field again there. We needed it to stay green before we got that last caution before that end. That would have helped us out a lot more, gave us a better chance. Looked like Greg's tires were starting to fall off a little bit there.
Yeah, and obviously you don't have any opportunity to make the Full Throttle Cup Series chase here in just a couple of weeks. You started the season late and you don't have enough points, nor do you have a victory yet this season to get into the chase. But looking forward to the rest of the season, what are your goals heading forward, and do you plan on contending for the championship in next year's season here in the Full Throttle Cup Series?
Yeah, definitely. Right now, it's kind of cool being in this position where really points don't matter. It's just go out there every week, do whatever you can to get that W, and have fun while doing it.
And while doing that, do you look to try to gain the respect of the drivers around you? Of course, it seems like you have done so far. You've done that very well. You've been a relatively clean driver. You haven't made a lot of mistakes, and you haven't really caused any issues. So is that something you're looking to do with these guys before you start contending for the championship?
Yeah, definitely. I try to keep it clean out there, but you got to race guys like they want to race you sometimes, and things happen. But most of the time, I like to keep the fenders intact.
Indeed, and your machine looks really good tonight. And before we let you go, I just want to give you an opportunity to give any sponsor plugs or any shout-outs you'd like to do before we let you roll.
Of course, I want to thank Steel Power Equipment, of course, Stroker Aces for bringing us on there. Definitely bringing them up in the team points. Everyone at LSR and RSR for putting us all on.
All right, thank you, Dylan. That was your 3rd place finisher, Dylan Jones, driver of the number 99. And now we're going to move a little bit further down pit road, where I believe Evan Pasoko is caught up with your 2nd place finisher, another rookie to the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series, David Washington.
Yeah, we'll go down just one number to the driver of the number 98, David Washington, who comes home in second place tonight at the Bristol Motor Speedway. David, congratulations on a strong run for the last place Motorsports Toyota Camry. Started this race in 12th, come home in second. Not the cleanest car on track, but one of the cleaner ones at the end of the day. You were there in second there for a lot of the end of that race. Taking a look at the back bumper of Greg Evans. You think you had a shot at any point there trying to get to him for the lead?
Now, the only way I was going to get a shot for the lead was either A, use the bumper, or B, wait for him to make a mistake and either hit the wall or get loose up off. That was pretty much the only way. And me and the team just talked about it and just wanted to stay as clean as possible without using the bumper.
We talk about staying clean. Tonight's race had a lot of cautions. 19 drivers, though, out of the 37 still do manage to come home on the lead lap in this one. But as a driver in this series who already has a win in 2015, but unfortunately for you guys joining later on in the year, not mathematically able to get to a top 30 spot in points to qualify for the chase coming up just now 2 races ago. The objective out there on the racetrack would evidently, I would imagine, for you guys to be to play spoiler. But you mentioned you guys trying to stay clean and try to stay out of everybody else racing for points as well.
Yeah, 10-4. Just trying to either one. It doesn't matter. Each week we go into this just put in as much seat time as we can, and whoever comes out on top on the team it's just one step forward to staying on top. Hopefully we can join this at the beginning of the season and give these guys a run for their money.
What's the race plans rolling forward for the rest of 2015?
Gonna just try to do as many races as we can. I know Jones has plans. The other guys are pretty much committed to running this, the stroke race guys. So I'm just gonna play it by ear right now.
Well, so far the starts have been good ones, and you come home again with a podium tonight. It's a second place for you in that number 98 Toyota. David, sponsors and shout-outs, all of those good people behind the scenes who you want to give a call to.
Yeah, definitely. Stroker Races, LPM. We got Andy Kessler up in the booth with Ben Kilcrease helping us out, making sure we stay clean. You guys at LSR, heck of a show you guys put on every week. All the drivers, it was a blast. Even though we had cautions, the drivers did a heck of a job.
You did one as well. You survive a chaotic night under the lights at Bristol. You come home with the second place, David. Again, congratulations. Best of luck. Hopefully we'll see you next week as well.
Yep, thank you guys.
Again, that is your second place finisher tonight in the last place Motorsports Toyota Camry. David Washington's number 98 machine starts in 12th and comes home bridesmaid tonight in second. Going to pass things on now to the virtual Gatorade victory lane. Jacob Seelman, you have caught up with Greg Evans.
Yeah, how about this one? Second win of the season and third of his Full Throttle Cup Series career for Greg Evans and the John Deere number 23 entry tonight. And it took the lead just after lap 100. And Greg, at that point, you never gave it back. Just flat dominated the second half of this race and had a car that looked better than anybody else in the field, whether it was working through traffic or whether it was just out front. But you had to hold off the 98 of David Washington for so much of this race. Was there ever any point where you were a little nervous that he might have enough to get by you?
I knew if he wanted to do it cleanly, probably not. I was kind of worried about maybe getting the bump. I kind of got a little bit of left front damage around lap 80 or something after a couple of cars spun in front of us and got a little bit collected up in that, and it kind of tightened the car up in the middle of the center, and it just I knew he was a lot faster than me those last couple of laps, but those last couple of laps cautions helped out a ton, because on the restart I was really good on the restarts and get away from most of them, and I knew on that last restart as soon as I cleared him and got through 1 and 2 clean, it was pretty much in the bag. But he raced me clean the last 100 laps, and I really appreciate it, and just an overall good race for us.
Good race for you guys. Second win of the season gives you some bonus points heading into the chase here in just a couple of weeks' time. Was this the momentum that Steel Horse needed to get back on track? I mean, the whole stable, there was a time when you guys had 5 cars in the top 6 at one point tonight. It just looked like everybody at SHR was finally back on track after 4 or 5 weeks of nothing but Boomtown Sim, it seemed like, at the front of the field in these Full Throttle Cup races.
Yeah, it was definitely a good night for the team. I know I really needed it for sure, because I think the last 3 or 4 races, I don't know if I even finished them or not. Just really been off the last couple of races, and during practice I felt really smooth, felt really comfortable with the car. Most of the other guys did too. And then when I qualified in third, I really wasn't expecting that. I expected maybe a top 10, but when I got to top 3, and then the race got started, I knew we had a really good car. And then, like I said, after that damage, it got a little bit tighter, but it was still really good. But just a good run for all of us. Got to thank those guys. They've stuck with me through the bad times and the good times. Can't ask for any better teammates. And hopefully we can carry some momentum into the chase.
I know you're hoping to get some momentum. Tonight really starts that 2 races to go. It's getting down to crunch time, and I know you guys are prepping for it. That takes a lot of people, a lot of sponsors. Greg, who do you need to thank? Who makes it happen?
I got to thank Home Depot. One of my buddies, he's a manager. He sponsored the car for the remainder of the season and let me put John Deere on the car a couple times. And he texted me and told me we might have to run this John Deere scheme some more if we can keep it in victory lane. I got to thank my guys from Steel Horse Racing, Sure Tape, Duct Tape, Husky Tools, Chevrolet, everybody. Just if I forgot you, I appreciate it. Just been a up and down year, but they stuck behind me, and hopefully take some momentum into the chase.
I think you've got that pretty well going for you, Greg. Tonight's a strong night. Second win of the season again. Gives you 3 more points headed into that battle after Richmond in about 3 weeks' time. So we'll get ready to go again next week in Darlington, and we'll look to see you there. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for hosting the races and taking time out to help us out, and really appreciate it. Thank you.
Steel Horse Racing back on top, Evan. And Greg Evans, your winner tonight here in Thunder Valley. And I believe somewhere along the way, you and Brian are upstairs with the full field rundown. Let's have it, because there was a lot of chaos tonight, a lot of carnage at the end of this one.
There was, and we'll spare telling you the plus and minus on all of these drivers because it would be a quite extensive post-race show, a lot of shuffling from what we saw at the start of this race. Talk to all of our podium finishers. Greg Evans takes on the win tonight over top of David Washington, and Dylan Jones rounds out your podium. Just behind them, Jeff Ward came over the 4th place. Just behind him, David Comstock as well in 5th. Dan Murray came home with the 6th place tonight, the number 5 Toyota. Nicholas Cohan fights through a lot of adversity in 7th. Jonathan Cadell puts the GTR Simulators Toyota home in 8th. Shyler Brown starts 13th. A very quiet night for a car that comes home without a front clip on it. The number 51 Ford is able to cross the start-finish line in 9th position. Brian, and rounding out our top 10, the Kodiak 25 and Nick Silver.
Yeah, Chad Cole finished 11th in that DeWalt Chevrolet number 8 machine. Scott Simley finished 12th. Our defending series champion Eric Brundies finished 13th. Thomas Lattimore finished 14th. Steve Gottschalk finished 15th. Matt Lacrosse finished 16th. Scott Stenzel was 17th after a very eventful night. He was a lap down several times and managed to finish on the lead lap at the end of the day. Jimmy North also had a very eventful night. He's going to finish 18th. And the last car on the lead lap, Sean Casto, he had a very eventful night as well. I actually heard from Race Control there may be some controversy surrounding that 52 machine. And Dwayne Vincent, your points leader coming into the night, he's going to finish 20th and 1 lap down. He's the first car 1 lap down.
And as well, continuing on through the field in this one, Brendan Mercer settles for 21st, 2 laps off at a lead lap, but it was all said and done. Pretty much from here on out, most of these drivers did end their night behind the wall and on the hook. And Doug Roth comes home in 22nd. Christopher Hurlow still on the racetrack, 8 laps down in 23rd. It was a 24th for Rich Jett. David Kamara's number 48 comes home in 25th. 26th for Ryan Vaughn. Joe Dinsmore in 27th. 28th to Mitch Rolo. Douglas Wyatt just behind in 29th. And rounding out your top 30 was the 9 of Anthony DeBarro.
Tough night for the rest of these guys in this field. Corbin Hemstreet finishes 31st. Nathan Little's going to finish 32nd. J.R. Johnson's going to finish 33rd. A championship contender, Thomas George, is going to finish 34th. Daniel Eberhardt's going to finish 35th. And making his return for the first time in several months, Adam Benefield got caught up in a wreck. He's going to finish 36th. And the last place finisher in this field, finishing 37th, is Paul Fugit in the number 45 machine.
A long night comes comes to a close here in Thunder Valley. Evan, almost a third of this race tonight run under the yellow flag as you and I are looking at this going, it was almost, I don't want to say a comedy of errors tonight, but in a way it just seems like we could never really get a long run going except for about 40 laps from 100 or so to 140. I remember that one stretch where Greg Evans led this race pretty solidly under green. Other than that, it was just a mess throughout the field.
Well, we saw times where we started to get spread out on a green flag stretch, and then once we did so, we just saw somebody get loose, and that was the part of this showed us how difficult the racetrack was. But then when we were close together again, everybody's nice and tight together. You make contact with somebody. So, we saw incidents from guys racing hard. We saw the single car incidents, which kind of kept us all, kind of in a bunch. And we never saw green flag pit stops, which as well kind of kept everybody on the same strategy, which was part of why everybody stayed so close together, because everybody had the same set of tires underneath for the most part.
Brian Macklin, any final thoughts from you? I mean, you were in this race back in April, and I'm sure tonight just glad that you were able to watch the chaos with us up here in the safety of the Inside Sim Racing broadcast tower.
Yeah, I definitely can agree with you on that. It's a lot more fun when you're calling the races versus when you're down on the track, especially on a night like tonight when you have so many cautions. We had 15 cautions tonight, and that's a very grueling race. When you have to sit under caution and pace around this track for that many times, it gets very frustrating as a driver, and it's certainly not a situation you want to be involved in. And for these guys that are still looking to get their win to get into the chase, they got 2 more opportunities and they're running out of time, and it's going to be really interesting. They're going to Darlington and then they're going to Richmond, so 2 very unique tracks, 2 very different tracks from one another, and it's going to be interesting to see who can rise to the top and if we can get a spoiler that might try to win the race and win their way into the chase. They only have 2 more shots. They're going to have to do it now.
They really are, and as we get down to it, we're going to be headed to Darlington next Monday night. As far as the Full Throttle Cup Series circuit goes, the Southern 200 going to be in action for the stars and cars of Real Sim Racing, and I know we're going to see a lot of throwback paint schemes, just as we will in the Southern 500, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series coming up in a couple of weeks' time. But for tonight, we get out of Thunder Valley with one driver happier compared to anybody else, and that's Greg Evans. Congratulations to him on his second win of the 2015 season and further solidifying his spot in the chase for the Full Throttle Cup. Right now, as we say goodnight, we also again want to extend our thoughts and prayers to the entire IndyCar community, to the family of Justin Wilson, and to all those affected by what is now a tragedy that happened yesterday at Pocono Raceway. So we dedicate this broadcast to Justin Wilson's memory, 37 years young and lost far too soon at Pocono yesterday afternoon. Andretti Autosport, we're thinking of you, and we say goodnight from Thunder Valley, congratulating Greg Evans and remembering a Sheffield, England star taken far too soon.